Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast, live from Radio Row at the Super Bowl. Patrick Allen, Sterling Holmes here with you. You know, like we are every year, because the Chiefs make the Super Bowl every year.
It's what they do.
It's what they do, and it's what we do. We're here to bring you all the talk about the game, talk about the league as a whole. We're going to have a great lineup of guests today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. It's going to be absolutely fire. We got Mike Golic Sr. coming up, as well as former Seahawks long snapper and former Green Beret Nate Boyer.
I just have to let this be known. The two times you've brought me down to Radio Row and to the Super Bowl,
Yep,
the Chiefs have been in both.
that's right.
So I think there is that correlation or is that causation? Or is it both?
It's definitely correlation.
Yeah,
I
think
don't know if it's if
it's the
you're
cause.
the reason.
It's because I am here.
Yeah.
So I just think I'm not superstitious. I am a little stitious.
I would say that Patrick Mahomes is both correlation and causation.
Yeah, he might be the reason why.
He's a big part of it.
By the way, for everyone, so much to get into here, but if you want to know what Patrick's intro is to get ready for the show, it's wild. Diva. Diva is the female version of a hustler, but it's very impressive your little talking thing you do.
It's a theater thing, brother. I'm a trained actor. What do you want? It's
not do that.
You know the beginning of Anchorman. It's a little bit like that. Unique New York. But
Yeah.
it's way cooler. It talks about dragons and all that stuff.
Well, you and I had a lot of fun down here. Again, we're in New Orleans on Radio Row. Last night was the opening night of Media Day, and great idea by a lot of the fan-sided guys. Richard included. Richard, got to give a shout-out to him, Sean, Hunter, all those guys behind the scenes making this possible, making it work, Joanne, Megan, everyone. But we did a scavenger hunt, and we had a really good time.
Oh, yeah.
Sean is absolutely grinding away, getting some clips out for everyone. But we went through so many different things. Steal a cheerleader's pom-pom. Come up with a touchdown dance to the player.
Yeah.
Try to get players to pronounce Suamataia.
To
spell Suamataia.
Yeah.
Eventually I went to Kingsley and said, hey, Kingsley, can you spell Suamataia? And it was pretty funny.
Did
and
he get it
one
right?
guy did it. Oh, he got his own name right,
Yeah, how about
surprisingly.
that? It's crazy.
Pretty easy to spell. I don't know why people can't get it right. S-U-M or S-U-A-M-A-T-A-I-A. It's always great, Richard shaking his head when you try and say it's easy and then you immediately mess up.
Yeah.
Always good with the program. Yeah. But, it was a lot of fun talk with Nick Bolton. What was your biggest takeaway from opening night, media night?
You know, the Chiefs are old hat at this. I think talking to some of the guys, obviously some of them were new, like Xavier Worthy, but listening to Mahomes and his comments and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, this is they've got a routine. I mean, they come here literally every year that they actually have a Super Bowl routine that they follow, and I think you can't sleep on how big of an advantage that is. Now, of course, a lot of the Eagles were here just a couple of years ago, and so they may have something similar, but there aren't going to be too many people on the Chiefs that are nervous about this one.
No.
Scavenger hunt was fun. I will say I get this is my claim to fame forever. I beat Creed Humphrey at something in a game of rock, paper, scissors. So I can always say I beat probably future Hall of Famer Creed Humphrey. Would you consider that an athletic feat? Rock, paper, scissors?
It's a game.
Physical.
It's a game of wisdom, at least.
Yeah. He went, just so you know, he went scissors. Or he went paper. I went scissors. I thought for sure.
I watched it happen. He didn't cheat. But I will say it was a little fishy.
You thought it was fishy?
I thought it was fishy.
I
thought you waited too long.
No. I mean, you think that Creed would be a rock guy, right?
I thought he'd be a rock guy.
So I thought about going paper. But I think scissors is the sneaky move. It was a lot of fun. Now, we also got nicknames. One of the things we had on our scavenger hunt sheet was get a player to give you a nickname. I got my nickname from Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
He gave me Sherlock Holmes. So I'm no longer Joker.
Dumb because
Sherlock Holmes.
Sterling Holmes.
Sterling Holmes would have been
But
good. What did you get?
I got Bolo Man from Justin Watson. I was wearing a bolo tie last night because that's what one does when you're down here on Radio Row. Again, going to be a lot of fun. I do want to talk a little bit about the Chiefs game. I see some folks right here in the chat, Arrowhead Addict. Appreciate everyone hanging out, doing this with us. Little Cam, Matthew, Maxwell, Dawn, Slothy, Jalin. Appreciate everyone in here having fun with us, all the listeners. So let's talk a little bit about the game, give some thoughts. We'll bring on Mike Golic Sr. In about 5 to 10 minutes or so, a lot of thoughts I want to get into in regards to Chris Jones, Jalen Carter, defensive line, just, Spagnuolo. I know that's some of the thoughts that you want to get into with him personally. Yeah. But what are you looking forward to most on Sunday? Because the pageantry is fun.
Sure.
Pageantry is great. But when it comes down to what happens on Sunday, what's a matchup or two you're looking at?
I think if they put Cooper DeJean on Xavier Worthy, rookie versus rookie, that's going to be a really intriguing matchup. And I like it if I'm the Chiefs. Cooper DeJean's been fantastic. I don't know if he's missed a tackle all year since he's gotten inserted into the lineup. He's been very, very good. But he's a rookie. And with all due respect to him, even great players get turned around going up against this Chiefs offense because Andy Reid is just the master at dialing up things to cause confusion on the defense. So, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to put my money on,
and you are,
and I am, that they're going to be able to take advantage of a rookie in Cooper DeJean playing in his first Super Bowl, and that could be a huge matchup in this one if they're able to fool him with some of their offensive schemes and the moment. I don't want to say he's a great player. I'm not going to say the moment's too big for him, but it's a lot to take in. Even Patrick Mahomes was clearly a little bit nervous in his first Super Bowl.
Yeah. And you also have a rookie in Quinyon Mitchell out there on the outside as well. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of youth on that Eagles team, a little different than the 2022 iteration. I think this Eagles defense is better than 2022, but I think it's a lot younger than 2022. Yeah. Some of their takeaways for everyone, I assume everyone knows, but if you don't, this is an artificial field, right? Sure. So I've already seen, some folks on the Eagles side of things say, well, no slipping this time around.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. It's not grass. I mean, both teams play in the same field. It is what it is. But so it is a turf field. And one of the things that stood out to me yesterday was the differences between the Eagles players and the Chiefs players. I don't know if anyone else noticed this. I thought the Eagles players were a little tight. A lot of not Trump says in a bad way. Almost an annoyance. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
An annoyance with some of the pageantry that's going on. A little bit of, we were here in 2022. We didn't win. This doesn't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
We just want to play the game. The Chiefs, on the other hand, I thought were a little looser, a little more fun. And again, it's two styles, but the Chiefs have won. They've proved so much already. Right. The Eagles, I think, maybe the mindset is, we need to prove we can win one. Yeah. They have won one, but that was, again, Nick Foles' era. That wasn't Jalin. That was pre-A.J. Brown. That was, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, of course, but a lot of that team has turned over.
Sure.
To me, I thought it was a difference of the Eagles, a lot of close to the chest, while the Chiefs were a little more jovial and relished this moment.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not be loose if you're the Chiefs? You're in your third straight Super Bowl. You're playing with house money a little bit. Now, I don't think that this is such a good, well-coached, prepared veteran team. That doesn't mean because the Chiefs are loose that they're going to go out there and play sloppy ball. And the Eagles maybe being a little bit more serious, it doesn't mean that they're going to be better or worse when they get on the field. But I think it makes sense if you're the Eagles. Look, you haven't won anything yet.
Yes.
Right? Like Nick Foles, that was a long time ago. You haven't won anything yet. You're here on a business trip. You don't have 2 Super Bowls sitting in your back pocket like the Chiefs do. Some of these guys from the Chiefs – yeah,
I guess a lot
there's just about 7 guys left from that first team. But some of these guys on the Chiefs have never not finished the season with a Lombardi Trophy, which is completely crazy. That's 2 draft classes now.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely wild. And I do think if anybody's getting a benefit from that, I think it's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They've been down 10 in the Super Bowl. A couple years in a row here. They're not going to be afraid of anything, and the Eagles have to prove it. And you do wonder, as the game goes on, and I think this happens to the Chiefs' opponents. I think it happened to the Buffalo Bills. I think we saw it happen to the Houston Texans. You know who you're going against. You ever play, I don't know if you're much of a gamer. You ever play a video game, and, you're getting into some of the harder levels, and you're like, oh, man. You get, you've almost beat the big boss. You just got a couple more hits, and that's when it gets really hard to get those last couple hits, and then maybe you die. You're like, I've been at this for so long. I got to get these last couple of hits, and you get a little tight. I think that happens when teams play the Chiefs and then they make bad decisions. Sometimes they go for 2-point conversions they maybe shouldn't go for. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in this game as well. How aggressive are the Eagles, and does it help them?
Sure.
or does it hinder them?
Yeah. I want to give a shout-out to, obviously, Phantom, Slothy, all these guys right here. But I do see one from IKOE. Says, let's go Chiefs. Hello, guys. Greetings from Norway. You guys look fantastic. Well, funny story for you.
Yeah.
At the hotel bar, I was there into the wee hours of the morning 2 nights ago, and I was talking to a guy from Norway, Ronnie. From Norway.
Yep.
Great guy. He was here on work. He was heading to Mobile, Alabama, and then heading back, I believe, to Norway. But I talked to this guy for about an hour and a half, 2 hours down there at the hotel bar, Ronnie from Norway. So some Chiefs fans from Norway. He actually asked him, we were trying to have some fun. I was like, hey, you a Chiefs guy, Eagles guy? And he goes, I don't give a bleep. His shirt actually said F-U-C-K on the shirt. It made me chuckle.
Great guy.
Norway guy. And so
rocking the jorts.
Rocking the jorts at the hotel bar. And shockingly, we're both here and alive in NOLA. We went to Bourbon Street once, rode the Mechanical Bull. We've had a lot of fun already.
Oh, man.
Media party is tonight.
Yeah.
Before we bring on Mike Golic Sr., we'll have Nate Boyer, of course, as well. We'll talk a lot more Chiefs, talk more about this game, some breakdowns. I do want to talk about a really cool thing, and that is Underdog, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Underdog has been such a fun aspect, and really, for me, I've been really enjoying it for NBA. NBA has been one of my favorite things to use Underdog for. It's super simple. It's higher or lower. They have injury protection. They have vulture protection in the NFL. It's a very cool setup that Underdog has. I've been a huge fan. Again, NBA, NFL, you name it, they got it. It is right there on Underdog. It is the best place to play Pick'em. Make sure you download the app, sign up with promo code Arrowhead Addict, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Promo code Arrowhead Addict right there on Underdog. And again, another thing that I think makes it so fun, just higher or lower, right there. If you think Patrick, higher in passing yards, rip it. You think higher for Travis Kelce, he's going to step up. You think you want to do a sack. You think Chris Jones getting a sack in this game against the banged-up interior of the Eagles' offensive line, you can use that. There's a lot of different statistics that you can choose from, higher or lower. It's not just simple ones. And plus, if you have, let's say, 6 different stats that you choose higher or lower on, and only 5 get correct, you can still be a winner right there in Underdog. They will help you out right there. So I love Underdog, and you will too. You must be 18 years or older, 19 years or older in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 years or older in Colorado for some games, 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Vote in Colorado. Concerned with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY.
They've changed up that language a little bit, and it's tripping me up.
Well, they made it harder, honestly, because it's not 18 plus, 19 plus.
Right.
It's 19 years or older.
Yeah.
Really stops you.
Yeah.
Really stops you.
All right, so I think another thing we got to talk about when it comes to this game, and I want to ask a lot of people about this, is obviously Saquon Barkley. He has been the key, the engine to the success of the Eagles. They got a lot of great players, of course, but I mean, when you got a guy doing that out there, it makes everybody's job easier. I think a lot of the analysis this week will be a little bit on the lazy side, where people are like, how are the Chiefs going to stop Saquon Barkley? Like, I don't think the Chiefs are going to try to stop Saquon Barkley. You can't stop that guy, but you can try to contain him, or you can try to get the Eagles into situations that are more favorable for your defense. How do you think they're going to approach Saquon? Are they going to sell out to stop the run on early downs? Are they going to kind of let him eat a little bit, then stiffen up in the red zone? How do you think Spags attacks this?
If I were the Eagles, I would be more concerned with what do we do when the Chiefs stop Saquon. Because as great as Saquon is, phenomenal player, best running back in football this year, I think it's not even close. He does not get used a ton in the pass game, right? I think if you were the Eagles and you have seen what the Chiefs have done traditionally, it's not just stopping the run. I know that, you saw Joe Mixon have a nice game on the ground, right? I understand that. I know that James Cook had a nice game on the ground. I get that. But what the Chiefs did in those particular matchups against Houston, we are not letting Nico Collins beat us.
Right.
What did the Chiefs do against the Bills? We are not letting Josh Allen's legs beat us.
Yeah.
What are they going to do against the Eagles? More than likely, we're not going to let Saquon beat us.
Right.
And so what the Chiefs, I think, will try and do is, yes, take Saquon a little bit out of the game plan. He'll get 80-plus yards. I think if the Chiefs keep him to under 100, which I think is a legitimate possibility, I would put something on that, maybe do that on an Underdog right there.
Yeah.
But then what do the Eagles do to change? Is it Devontae Smith? Is it A.J. Brown? I personally think it'd be a lot of Dallas Goedert, those quick outs.
Goddard.
But that's what it comes down to me. The Chiefs don't give up big runs. One all year was a big run.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford, 63-yarder. They have, 5 other 20-yard-plus rushes that were given up.
Yeah.
They don't give up the big plays on the ground. So that's going to have to be the Eagles doing something different. As great as Saquon is, he's not going to be the reason, in my opinion, the Eagles win that game.
Speaking of all-time greats, we have Mike Golic Sr. joining us.
Not an all-time great on the football field, that's for sure.
Well, you are in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, are you not?
Yes, I am, and that was a very nice honor.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, better than no Hall of Fame. That's a great Hall of Fame.
That's a great Hall of Fame.
I know
I don't
this
have
guy
a Hall
wants
of
to
Fame.
get in there.
Well,
Mustache Hall of Fame, maybe.
Maybe someday. Keep striving for it. Keep reaching for the stars.
No, don't pander. Come on, don't do that.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose.
I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
though.
So who are you working with today?
Stello from Dexcom. I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic in my early 40s. My dad was as well. And so I've been dealing with it for the last 20 years. And Stello, you can go to Stello.com for all the info. Stello is the first FDA-approved glucose biosensor that you can get over the counter. Normally, when you get I have the continuous glucose monitor on, normally you have to get those prescribed to you. Now, Stello is over the counter.
Nice.
So any of the 125 million type 2 diabetics or pre-diabetics can get it over the counter. Put it on. It's an app on the phone. It continuously gives me my glucose number. So now, instead of pricking my finger 20 times a day or having to get a prescription to get a glucose monitor, I get it over the counter. I pair it with my app on my phone, and 24/7 I get my numbers. So what I eat affects my numbers. How I work out affects my numbers. How much I sleep affects my numbers. I get a constant reading. It's like having a doctor or a health advisor on my arm and on my phone, so I can constantly, kind of see what my readings are and adjust to stay in a healthy level.
Briscoe, if you're listening, we have a co-host who has diabetes.
Oh,
okay. He needs to get
telling
on
you,
this.
it quite honestly, it takes the thinking out.
Yeah.
It is a great
and I don't
product.
like to think.
I don't like to think.
Briscoe does either,
Listen,
so.
I'm an inch deep and a mile wide.
Yeah.
I don't like to think. Put the sensor on, pair it with the app on the phone, and I get readings and I learn from it. I said, okay, this food caused this. All right, well, we won't do it. We'll cut that food out. This caused this. All right, we're going to learn from it. So you can learn, get all the information you need 24/7.
That's fantastic. I was just reading about. Are you still with DraftKings? Gojo
Yes.
and Golic? Oh,
Yep.
great. That's fantastic. So we wanted to ask you. You're a defensive guy in the NFL. What do you think makes Steve Spagnuolo such a successful coordinator?
Well, I think it's not the plays you call; it's when you call them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the last play against Buffalo. Now, what you need is players that can execute, right? Because a key to a great disguised blitz is the word disguise, and that's not a defensive player giving it away.
Yeah.
So if that corner steps too soon, during the cadence, Josh Allen's going to see that. Josh Allen sees like a two deep, and he sees kind of an overload to the offensive left, so he slides the line to the left because that corner's not giving anything away.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the corner's coming scot-free. Karlaftis is coming scot-free. They're not rushing a ton of guys. They're rushing enough for the O-line to block, but he's fooled them.
Yeah.
The O-line is sliding the other way. So, again, it's not the defense you call. It's the same with an offense.
Sure.
It's not the play you call. It's when you call it.
Yeah.
How have you seen the evolution, especially of the interior defensive line, happen? Because it used to be you stopped the run. That's what you focused on.
Right.
Well, now you have just a plethora of guys. Chris Jones, obviously. Aaron Donald was kind of the start of this, almost, it felt like. But then you have guys like Jalen Carter now for the Eagles. That's their strong suit. How have you seen this take place?
I've seen it change from guys who are run stoppers like me, and then you go off the field on a passing down.
Yeah.
Right? To now you stay in, or you have the rotation. Like we had a nice rotation in Philly. You have a rotation. Like Philly used like a 6-7 person rotation during the year. Now they've tightened that up in the playoffs some, but they are looking like, Brandon Graham, the ability of him to come back could add to it. But all the guys can do more than just play the run. You had 3 down guys, you had 2 down guys. Now, Jalen Carter is playing 91% of the snaps.
Yeah.
And he's a train wreck. I mean, he's just playing on the other side of the line. So his stats don't always show up in the box score, but his effect on the play is there, and everybody sees it. He makes a running back have to go east and west instead of north and south. So, yeah, that's been a big change for an interior. And how they can move interior D linemen lining up on the edge like Chris Jones does in passing situations. Their versatility is incredible.
You know, when you sat down, we were talking a little bit about the Hall of Fame. There are no pure coordinators in the Hall of Fame, but Steve Spagnuolo, he took down the undefeated Patriots. He's won 3 Super Bowls with the Chiefs, maybe a 4th here. Do you think he's a guy that should be considered for entry as a coordinator?
I mean, how do you not?
Yeah.
I say this debate about special teamers. How are there not more and I don't mean just kickers and punters. I mean like a guy I played with came into the league with me, Steve Tasker. Steve Tasker was one of the great special team players of all time. How are those? They're part of an NFL team.
Yeah.
How are these voters not voting some of these guys in? So why not a coordinator?
Yeah.
I mean, Bud Carson is probably the best D coordinator I ever played for. God rest his soul. I mean, just fantastic. Steve Spagnuolo is going for his fifth D coordinator Super Bowl ring. He already has the most at 4.
Yeah.
He's going to up it to possibly 5. So he absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
When you look at what Howie Roseman and Brett Veach have done, both those two guys, I think, are the pinnacle of the GM position in the NFL. I mean, I think it's those two. Then take your pick for third, maybe Brad Holmes. But what do they do differently in your mind than some of these other GMs?
Well, I think they get players that really fit the coaching, fit the system. Now, what you have to also have is a consistent system in place. Andy's been there for a number of years. You know the system you have. Sirianni, there was talk of, which is wild, but he's still been there for a number of years. Yeah. So there's consistency in knowing the type of player that you need. I think that's a big thing because of the system that you play. It's not, we got a new coach, so we have a new system. And then, we got this player because he's a really good player, but we don't even know if he fits in the system.
Yes.
So you have consistent systems so you know the players to get in. I'll say this right now. They'll rename the Executive of the Year award the Howie Roseman Award if he gets Myles Garrett this offseason.
Yeah.
We actually had one of our guys, we had a chance on opening night last night to talk with Howie. And we asked, hey, Myles Garrett wants a trade. What are you thinking here?
Oh, he can't say a word about that. He's going to get fined.
Just deadpan and goes, good try.
Oh, man. You want money to come out of his pocket, huh?
Hey, you see the Chiefs over here. You see that right here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'd imagine he didn't say a word.
Well, you played in Philly, and so you know those fans. And obviously Nick Sirianni is a very unique head coach. A lot more passionate, the whole see ya when he was in Kansas City. A lot of Chiefs fans, we feel a certain way about Nick Sirianni.
Right.
But how does he fit in that locker room and with that fan base, the embodiment almost of some of those guys?
Listen, he's straightforward, kind of like the fan base, right?
Yeah.
And some people don't appreciate that. Now, again, they've had inconsistencies at the offensive coordinator position, a pair of the last 3 years. But at least he has been the coach. But I just think I'm glad he hasn't changed. I'm glad he hasn't tried to conform to how a head coach, what we think a head coach is supposed to be. Yeah. And he may rub some people the wrong way. And we know the bottom line is if he's not going to win, he's not going to be there.
Sure.
So, but he's winning. So, you know what? Be yourself. And he certainly is.
Back to the Chiefs, it seems like everybody outside of Kansas City is rooting against the Chiefs this year. We keep hearing a lot from fans in the media about Chiefs fatigue.
Yep.
What do you think it is that causes this and prevents people from just kind of enjoying or accepting hey, this is a dynastic run by actually really likable people? Andy Reid.
Ask Golden State.
Yeah.
Ask Michael Jordan. Ask Tiger Woods. Ask any dynasty that the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s of you root for them when they get to the mountaintop and they're there a short time, but then if they're there too long, we're like, all right, we need somebody new.
Yeah.
All right. Get up. You've been up there long enough. Get off.
Yeah.
I appreciate the greatness. I think one of the guys not talked about enough, and I know he gets talked about in Kansas City, is Andy Reid.
Yes.
Andy Reid is going to go down as the winningest coach in the playoffs. He's going to pass Belichick in 3 playoff wins, and he's 47 away from passing Don Shula.
Yes.
He's going to pass Don Shula.
Yeah.
He needs 12 wins a year for 4 years. He can do that.
Yep.
And why would he leave? Why would he leave when Mahomes is 28 years old and he's having a ball?
Well, and that's why we always have a conversation in Kansas City. We joke about it now because Pete Carroll, of course, now gets
74.
70. Yeah, and Andy was, I think, 67.
Andy, yeah.
I always go, just because Andy Reid is sturdy and he likes his cheeseburgers doesn't mean that all of a sudden that makes him older.
No.
Just because he has got a white mustache does not all of a sudden mean he's about to retire.
No, and if he wants, and that's what always gets me about players who played for an organization for a long time and then end up having to go to another one. People are like, oh, just retire. I'm like, no. If they want to put the work in and play,
yes,
let them play.
Yeah.
If Andy wants to put the work in and coach, man, coach for as long as you can.
That's what he does. Is Andy going to go red fishing down
What's
here
he
in NOLA?
gonna do? That's exactly right.
And I'm sure he's been waiting for a guy like Patrick Mahomes to come along his entire career.
You ride that out.
Yeah,
Man, you
yeah.
ride that out. Yeah,
Yeah.
Andy. And listen, I'm biased. I'm good friends with Andy. But I think he'll go down statistically as the greatest coach of all time.
Are you surprised by, you mentioned the Eagles coordinators getting poached. That was a big situation.
Yeah.
That was why last year they took that step back.
Right.
This year, some continuity. They got it right. But the Chiefs coordinators, for the most part, have been there. Even the smaller guys like, Dave Merritt in the secondary, Steve Spagnuolo have been there a long time. Matt Nagy went and left, one
Right.
coach of the year.
But it starts with the coordinators. You can lose position coach, but it starts with the coordinators. And you talk about the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy. Who calls the plays?
It's Andy.
I mean, it's different when your head coach is calling the plays.
Sure.
Defensively, hanging on to Spagnuolo. I mean, now he's what? He's 60.
He's just like the same age as Andy.
I think he's
yeah.
66. I think he is. So. And he probably would like to be a head coach, but I don't know if he'll get the chance to be a head coach. He was one, so we know that didn't go so well with the Rams. But, I mean, hey, what a benefit to the Chiefs. The longer Steve's not a head coach somewhere, he's the D coordinator with Kansas City, and he ain't going anywhere.
And you have the special teams coach, Dave Tobe, who's been around a
Tobe.
long time.
Yes, a long time.
I'm just surprised that other teams have not, again, tried to. Is there any reason in your mind? Again, because.
Well, I mean, Spagnuolo won't leave unless it's a head coaching job.
Agreed, but I'm just surprised that no one has given him the opportunity.
I am too.
And that's why I guess we can't understand it. We don't understand it because even OC-wise, we know Bieniemy didn't call the plays. He didn't really get the opportunity that a lot of folks thought.
And Matt Nagy went and failed as a head coach.
But did he? He won Coach of the Year, which, again, Coach of the Year is not always the best measuring stick. He took Trubisky to the playoffs. He wasn't the guy that drafted Trubisky.
Yeah.
That's not his fault.
No, that's true.
And then Doug Peterson, for all he received in Philly, he won them a Super Bowl with Nick Foles as the quarterback.
Yeah.
And then I just never understood how they all labeled it, okay, well, that's not a success. Have you seen other trees? Like Cliff Kingsbury keeps getting jobs. I'm just surprised, I guess, that the Chiefs corners have not been poached more.
And it's probably good for Kansas City, right?
Oh, we love it.
I was going to say,
Mike,
you should.
Before we let you go, if Mahomes pulls off this three-peat, that's 4 Super Bowls, three in a row. Where do you rank him among the all-time greats?
I mean, listen, he's climbing. He's not climbing the ladder. He's sprinting up the ladder.
Yeah.
And I don't think he needs 7 to be considered better than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I
mean, he probably needs to get close, but I think he could end up being the GOAT.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, the amount of Super Bowls he's been in, he's not even 30. Right. He's not 29, right? He's 28. He's 28, 29.
It's sad when he's younger than me, and I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing, and he's doing it while Travis has been the same, but we know the outer shell, the wide receivers have been different. Running backs have been different. Makeshifting the offensive line, putting a left guard out, a left tackle, and Tooney. I mean, he is rapidly rising up, walking in the Hall of Fame now. Yeah. I do Westwood One games with Kurt Warner. I was riding in the car with Kurt Warner at last year's Super Bowl. Kurt, who's in the Hall of Fame, is like, oh, he's absolutely in the Hall of Fame right now. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous how great he is. So I would say, he's sprinting up the ladder.
Yeah. All right. One more time, Mike Golic, what are you working with?
Yeah, with Stello. Go to Stello.com for the information. Again, it's a sensor that you can that measures your glucose for type 2 diabetics and pre-diabetes. You can get it over the counter. That's the important thing. Yeah. Is it's available over the counter now, no prescription, 24/7 reading on the app on the phone. It's like having a doctor in your phone to help guide you in your health journey.
Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks you so much for coming by. Yeah,
Thanks.
We'll see you next year.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right, take care. That is Mike Golic Sr., the great Mike Golic Sr., the Hall of Famer in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank
you.
you. These are great. You can use these.
We do have a diabetic friend who's a co-host.
Yeah.
Oh, this is for him.
Is he type 1 or type 2?
I don't know.
Yeah.
If he's type 2, he can use these. If he's type 1, he needs to use G7.
Okay.
Got it.
Briscoe,
Thank you.
if you're type 1 or type 2, we're going to find out. We might have just saved you, Briscoe. We're doing this for you. See, we care, Mike. We care about the
How you
people.
doing?
We care about the people.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Nate
it.
Boyer joining us now here on the Arrowhead Ag Podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
We're hanging in. It's a crazy week. It's
We're
a circus
saving
down
people.
here.
We're
yeah.
saving people.
What is that?
Diabetes medication.
Oh,
What
good.
a-
Are you guys
what's a-
diabetic?
No, one of our co-hosts is, but Mike is, and
Yeah,
so
glucose monitor.
Gotcha.
So yeah, keep your sugar levels
Yeah.
right
Oh.
where they need to be.
Absolutely.
So you're working with MVP, right?
Yeah, I co-founded an organization called Emerging Vets and Players, MVP for short, and we essentially bring together combat vets and former professional athletes and help them find purpose and identity when they lose a uniform. So I was, in the military for a while and played football for a while, was in both those locker rooms, both those uniforms, and
Yeah.
a lot of similarities. Of course, sports and going to war is different, but a lot of the other stuff is the same, and the transition struggles are often the same too.
yeah, I said that has to be so difficult when you've had that identity for so long. I mean, we talk just in general. Randy Grimes was actually talking about that a little earlier on about
Randy's a good guy.
about after football.
Yeah.
But what was that transition like for you going through both of those?
Well, I didn't even think about transitioning out of the military. I didn't think about being a veteran. I just was doing my job, and it's like in the moment, you can't really think about that if you're going to do your job to the utmost. And I think it's the same with sports. The minute an athlete starts thinking, I wonder what I'm going to do next, it's kind of over.
Yeah.
If that's in your head, like you're already kind of defeated in a weird way. So it's tough. I was fortunate to have the football locker room to go into straight from the military, and I was actually still in. I was still in the National Guard for 4 more years while I was playing college football. So in the summers, I was going to Afghanistan, and then coming back home and going to play football. And so I was weaning off of the camouflage while I was wearing that jersey. And then when football ended, and now I was out of both, no more military, no more football, that's when it kind of hit me of like, oh, dang, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So
I was on your
Workout,
website.
it looks like.
yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing all right.
I was on your website yesterday doing research for our interview, and I was watching some of the videos on there, and I was just really struck about, the human element. I think when people think of our warriors in the military, they think of athletes as superheroes, of superhuman strength. It's hard sometimes to think of those people as having weaknesses, but they're human beings like all of us. And I was just really struck by the messaging that you guys have of bringing people together and looking after the human being, especially with the veterans who are looking after all of us and sometimes putting their own emotional health to the side so that they can do that. I just think it's such a wonderful organization. I was struck by I mentioned in the video you founded this. You work with Jay Glazer on this, and Jay was talking about how you were bunking with him, and you were coaching a former military person in one room, and he was coaching a former athlete in the other room, and he started getting the idea of like, hey, like we've got something here.
Yeah, because it's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, both those careers end pretty young. There's a lot of sacrifice, different type of sacrifice, of course, but to be elite, that is required for both.
Yeah.
And people kind of see you as this thing.
Yeah.
Like you're an athlete, you're a vet. And we're so much more than that, of course. But you start to see yourself as that as well. And then when you're no longer doing that thing, you're like, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing now? Like, where do I even start? I feel like my skills won't translate to anything else, which isn't true, but it's just how it feels.
Translates to everything, right?
Of course.
Sure.
Do you, like for Christmas, you long snap the Christmas presents out to people, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it.
How did you get into football then? What was your thought process there into long snapping? Because I guess we talked to Kendall Gammon sometime. He's a longtime Chiefs long snapper.
Yeah.
But how do you get into that? Were you – because you're not he was an offensive lineman.
Not a big guy.
Well, he was an offensive lineman, right? So he was
Right.
like, well, that's my way to make in the NFL.
Right. Well, I never played growing up. That was part of it. So I didn't play football until I was 29 years old. I played baseball, basketball, other sports in high school, and never played football. Regretted it because it was my favorite sport to watch.
Yeah.
So when I was coming off of active duty and ready to go to college at 29. I just said, wherever I go, I'm going to try out for the football team. It happened to be the University of Texas, which is a pretty good football team.
Not bad. Yeah, not bad.
Okay.
So I walked on as a safety. I was like, well, for my size, safety and receiver are the only two positions that make sense. And I walked on as a safety, made the team, but then, realized I'm never going to get on the field as a safety. I just don't have the speed. And there's certain things you just can't learn, essentially. But I was like, you know what? I can figure out, maybe I'll find a thankless job that nobody wants to do. Long snapping is the ultimate thankless job.
Yes.
I put on a few pounds and just kind of went for that. And I was like, that was the path. That was the dream, the goal.
Yeah.
Was just like, I'm just going to figure this out, do the best I can, and hopefully I get that opportunity.
I think that's really great advice for somebody who is looking to get into any field about how do I find my way into it? What if I don't have the advantages? What if I don't have the speed? Now, of course, not everybody's going to be able to make it onto a football team no matter what they do, but the idea of trying to find your way in, do I have what it takes to fit in somewhere and be willing to do that job and put in the work? And it took you all the way to the NFL.
Yeah, it did. It was I learned how to long snap. I mean, I was watching YouTube videos and Googling it and just practicing and trial and error and putting a lot of reps in. But then, I also would equate it to, or at least use the same type of preparation and training I did to learn how to shoot a pistol. Right? When I joined the military, I was coached on how to do that. And it always started with stance and grip and sight picture and trigger squeeze and breathing and slow is smooth, smooth is fast, aim small, miss small, all these little things 100% translated to snapping a football.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, because the big thing is, there's a lot of people that can do it, but can you do it when there's 100,000 people watching and you're backed up in your own end zone up 2 with a minute left? And you better have a good punt so they're not in automatic field goal range, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of people can snap it fast and spiral and put it in the punter's pocket every time at practice, but can you do it there? And that's where the military training really, prepared me for that. And so I had these other skills that were intangibles, we call them, that I didn't realize I had that gave me an advantage over other people, even though they'd been snapping since they were 8 years old.
Well, because in the grand scheme of things, once you're in the military, then you come play football, you're like, this snap isn't quite as important. It doesn't have the...
I still had nerves, don't get me wrong, but I knew how to deal with them.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I was definitely nervous. The worst snap in my entire career was the very first snap. And it was a meaningless – we were going to beat the hell out of New Mexico State or something like that.
Sure.
But I didn't focus. I went out there. The crowd, I was like, whoa. This is – because I hadn't been there yet.
Sure.
So I kind of had to screw up. You know what I mean? It wasn't that bad. But it was like – it was an extra point, and the holder had to kind of trap it and get it up. And I go to the sideline, and Mac Brown, the Longhorn coach at the time, he grabs my helmet, and he's just like, you were getting shot at a year ago. Like, what are you worried about? You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, good point.
Thanks,
and then I was just like, all right, just have fun, man. Like, this is a game, and not that you shouldn't do your best and focus and all that, but Patrick Mahomes, great example.
Yeah.
The more challenging the moment, the more there's no way he's going to gunsling his way out of this one, the more he elevates, because he focuses, you know what I mean? And that, he harnesses the nerves. He's definitely got them. There's no question. But he knows how to harness them. He knows how to use them to his advantage, and it helps him focus better.
Yeah.
Do you think that more people in these moments, let's say Super Bowl, do they elevate their game, or is it a situation where some guys crumble under the moment? Because I've almost wondered where, we talk about Patrick all the time. His game gets better. But I also do wonder if guys just get so nervous that the lights get too bright. That might be the bigger storyline.
Oh, that's 100%. I mean, in all sports. You look at golfers, great example, who have won tons of tournaments, but they can't get over the hump in that major. It's that.
Yes.
I think it's that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if Pat was a golfer, he may not win all the tournaments, but he's probably going to win a lot of majors. He's the Kapka of football. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just the bigger the moment, the better the player, and that's how he is. And it's crazy, but to watch. But it's this is what he does. I mean, look at the record this year. What was it? 12-0 in one score games or something like that.
That's all they do.
I mean, it's insane.
All they do.
So it's they're a lot better than some of those teams. So until the moment's there, and he's like, all right, now it's time to switch it on. We're
sandbagging.
We've been sandbagging long enough. But it's just it's not intentional, but it's just we all get complacent at some times, and we all need to rest and relax. We don't need to. We can't operate at that level at all times.
Sure.
But when are you going to operate at that level? He has figured out somehow to operate at that level in the crucial times when it matters. And that's why he keeps winning and keeps doing this. It's insane. Like, no one ever thought Brady would have competition until like 3 years ago. And now we're all like, I don't know.
It happened so soon, too.
So quick.
Yeah.
So
Well,
quick.
I mean, you know something about overcoming the odds, walking on to Texas and ending up having a shot in the NFL. Like, what is it? What do you make of this Chiefs run? This latest Chiefs run where they're going for the three-peat. You know, what does it take
crazy.
for, you know, and I know you dealt with this in the military. Like, what does it take for a group of people to sustain this level of excellence and teamwork?
I wish I knew because I would do it. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be leadership, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Coach Reed is great with the guys. They all love and respect him and want to fight for him. And I think the players probably want to fight for one another, too. That's what makes a great team. I spent a very short time in Seattle. I don't think they had the same talent level that the Chiefs had, but they were in the Super Bowl back-to-back years for a reason.
Right.
Because they had that belief in one another. They played for one another. They were never out of the fight, no matter what. It's like, okay, yeah, we're down right now, but like we've been here before, and this is what we do. And but I think that starts with leadership. I think Coach Carroll was a great leader and a cultural leader. You know, his big thing was like this like overt positivity and enthusiasm, even when it's like maybe at the point of annoyance to some people. But it's like he believes, you know what I mean? And even if he maybe doesn't, he gives the illusion that he believes, and that's enough to get the players to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that they have that. And maybe Pat's more that person on the team than Coach Reed. You know what I mean? I don't know. But or maybe it's somebody else that I just have no idea. But it has to be leadership and belief. But belief comes from the leaders believing. If the leaders don't believe, there's no way.
Right.
There's just no way. It's the same in the military.
I have a super random, stupid question to ask you because you're
Okay.
from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, right?
That's where I was born,
Is
yeah.
that you're born? Okay, so
The other UT. No, it's right next to Knoxville.
yeah, so you're a big, I'm assuming Oak Ridge Boys fan, then, right?
I mean, not big, but I appreciate them.
Right, Elvira and all that stuff.
Elvira,
I
yeah.
listen to that
My Heart's
song.
on Fire.
Well, I used to listen to that song. Small town, southern Indiana.
Okay,
So for some reason that song was always played. And
Right,
so I
right.
always know it's Oak Ridge Boys. And so
Yeah.
I did a little research. I didn't know they actually drew their name from, I assumed, but from Oak Ridge. So
They have to. They had to.
they
I
had
guess.
to. I'm like,
I don't know.
let me make sure. But yeah, from playing at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory.
That's where my mom worked.
Seriously.
Yeah, she's an engineer. She's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was working at Oak Ridge National Lab. My dad was getting his veterinary degree from that UT, University of Tennessee, and I was conceived. And that's
Wow.
the story. That's why Oak Ridge. And then by the time I was 2 years old, we were living back in California. I grew up in the Bay.
Sure.
My dad was working at Golden Gate Fields there. My mom got her PhD at UC Berkeley, one of the first women in her field. Like, my parents are 1,000 times smarter than me and much more humble. So I'll brag on them.
Yeah.
Hey,
But,
credit
yeah.
to you for being humble, though.
Yeah.
Credit to you for being humble.
What do you mean? Yeah, credit to me. Credit to me. Right, exactly. I'm the most humble guy I've ever met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think.
who's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
humble?
definitely.
Who
Yeah.
is more? You
I
show
mean,
me
maybe
somebody
me,
more humble.
Maybe me. I don't know.
Maybe
me,
you. Yeah.
Well, listen, you're a person who inspires people, right? That's a big part of what the work that
Yeah,
you do.
you're right. I
is-
do.
If you had the opportunity to speak to either the Eagles or the Chiefs in the locker room before the game, what advice would you give them?
Well, first I'd say, why am I speaking to you? I've lost so much. You don't want a loser talking to you before the Super Bowl. I mean, I guess I'd have nothing to say to the Chiefs because they've been there, they've won it, they've done it. Like the Eagles, not that they didn't win a few years ago, they beat Tom Brady, so they did slay the dragon, right? So maybe it would be something like that if I had the opportunity to talk to the Eagles. Like, not all of you guys were a part of this team at the time, but go back and watch the tape. You know, nobody bet on you guys to win that. You had a backup quarterback. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl against the GOAT.
Right.
And you found a way. You did it. And you've been here before and fallen short, right? But you've gotten here to this place before. Like, all it takes is that continued belief that I guarantee the Chiefs have right now.
Yeah.
They all believe, and most of the nation believes that there's no way the Chiefs are going to lose this Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you gonna dig? What are you gonna mine within yourself? You know, what past wins and achievements and like the fact that your own personal story, like how you got here, against what odds? Like, this is an incredible moment. This is an incredible opportunity. You deserve to be here, and there's no reason why you shouldn't win this football game. There's no reason.
Nate, before I let you go, I know, obviously, do you have any place coming to Kansas City? I know that you guys and MVP are starting to emerge into some new cities, have some plans.
I love Kansas City. I would love to because look, we had what's the football club, the soccer club?
Sporting Kansas City.
Yes. So they had an event recently with some vets and some athletes, I think, and somebody reached out, so we had talked about that. I've got a few friends there on the vet side, and when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was struggling with some mental health stuff this offseason, a couple of our vets were talking with him like on a weekly basis, kind of working with him. So it would make a ton of sense. We'd love to. I mean, it's not only like a great sports city, but it's Heartland America, and I just when you look at that fan base in that stadium, it's the loudest every year. And I was with the Seahawks for a short time, very loud stadium.
Yeah.
I never got to go to I never got to play Kansas City. Never got to go to a Chiefs game. From all accounts and facts, it is literally the loudest place, which is super cool. So I think it would make 1,000,000% sense, And so MVP, we're always looking to grow and expand. And by the way, vetsandplayers.org is the website, and there's a movie called MVP that's out that everybody I would encourage to watch so they can learn more about the organization, kind of how we started. But yeah, we would love nothing more than to be in Kansas City. Shout out to Burt Lytle right now, my boy in Kansas City. So
love that. Shout out Burt.
All right,
shout out Burt.
Yeah. All right, before we let you go, what's your final score prediction for Sunday?
Sorry, Eagles. I mean, I just said. You can't bet against. It's so hard to bet against history. I grew up a huge Niner fan.
Yeah.
All the belief in the world, and then whoopsie daisy, it happened again. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's another overtime game. That would be exciting. Yeah. But I feel like Chiefs by a field goal. I don't know what the numbers are. It might be 17-14. It might be 38-35. Who knows? Yeah. But
run it back, baby.
It's just hard to. You can't bet against. I don't want to say just Pat Mahomes. I want to say the whole team because they do it together, and he'll tell you that. And yes, he escapes some amazing, inescapable situations and makes these plays, but it takes 10 other guys out there with him doing it. So
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Nate Boyer, MVP. If you're a vet, if you're a former athlete, check it out. We appreciate you.
Brother.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it, man.
Oh man, it's such a great organization, Sterling. I encourage everybody listening, watching, head over to MVP's website and they've got great material there where you can just kind of get a crash course on what they do. And you see these athletes and these former, these veterans getting together and working out together. And it's fantastic. It's such a great organization. There's a lot of ugliness in the world, and it's great that there are people like Nate out there who are looking to help people find their way. We all need a little help sometimes.
And you can go to www.vetsandplayers.org.
Yeah.
www.vetsandplayers.org. Always fun. It's nice. Some of the same people every single year with Mike Golic.
Yeah, Golic.
With Nate Boyer.
Yeah.
Randy Grimes. It's fun having these almost continuations of these conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, Golic was fantastic. He always is. True pro. Great insight. I could talk to Mike Golic. I mean, this is a guy who did radio for hours and hours and hours every single day, every morning on ESPN on Mike and Mike. So he's a guy you could just talk to for 6 hours straight, and he could just talk sports, tell you stories. I think that's it for us today, Sterling.
Yes, that is.
We have hit our time limit. Listen, guys, we've got more to come. Arrowhead Addict is done, but there's going to be more here, the Stack in the Box channel, and then we're going to be back tomorrow, of course, and we're going to have a great lineup of guests here for you on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. So if you're not subscribed to the Arrowhead Addict channel, to Stacking the Box, to Fansided, make sure you are so you get the notification when we go live from Radio Row. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. You're at HomestretchKC.
Correct.
I am at rpatrickallen. And make sure you're checking out arrowheadaddict.com. Matt Connor, Price Carter, the whole crew over at arrowheadaddict.com will be keeping you up to date on all things Super Bowl. We're getting closer, brother.
Dude.
Are you getting excited? You getting nervous?
I'm not nervous. I'm just excited. Yeah. I have that, I don't want to say calm inevitability of the Chiefs, but it's one of those situations where I wanted to see one. Everything else is gravy. Do I want the Chiefs to win? You bet your ass I do, Patrick.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, we're just so, one, lucky to be here. Two, watching this team is incredible. I'm just excited, man. I'm excited but not nervous.
Yeah, yeah. And just before we go, we get a couple. I want to just do a shout out to everybody in the chat. We really appreciate you. Cliff Johnson says, excellent interview. As a fellow vet myself, I certainly appreciate Nate's commitment to helping veterans. Awesome guy. And Steve says Boyer is a stud. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for supporting us today, being active in the chat. We're going to have, like I said, more shows every day, all this week. So we'll see you right back here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Iain MacMillan here, Cody Williams, and we are just going to dive right into it here. We are live from Radio Row. Joining us right now, Jalin Hyatt. Nice to see you, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about y'all? Good to see y'all.
Doing
man.
well, doing well. Big week ahead. Let's start off with probably a question that you're getting a lot this week. Saquon Barkley. Are you cheering for him? Is it mixed emotions watching him this week?
I'm definitely cheering for him.
Yeah.
But only Saquon, though.
Yeah, just to be clear.
Just because we play the Eagles twice a year.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really cheering for Saquon just because of what he done for me my rookie year. Being that leader for me. Helping me when he was here with the Giants. With plays, with just the season. And when he left, I was sad, upset. Because we built this chemistry with me and him. And, he leaves and obviously goes to the Eagles. I'm like, dang. And but just seeing him, being Saquon again and doing what I know he's capable of doing, it's fun to watch. But I hate that it's with the Eagles. But it's fun to watch, and I'll be cheering for him for sure.
Now, he had a lot of explosive runs this year. I mean, I don't know how many highlights you can kind of watch of other teams, obviously. Did you see his backwards hurdle that he did? That's how is that
And what's
possible?
crazy about it is, I'm really not surprised.
Right.
Because, even though when he was with us before he left and he kind of was going through a little injury sometimes, but I can still see the Saquon in him. You know what I mean? Like, you can still see it. Like, he's a special player. Obviously, one of the best running backs probably we ever seen, and I'm proud of him, and I'll be rooting for him, but it will be only him for sure.
I mean, you got to have quads to do something like that. He's got nothing but quads.
He has it. I mean, he has the explosiveness. He has the speed. Obviously, he can make guys miss. And that backwards hurdle was crazy.
It's one of the craziest
that just
moves.
adds another thing to it. So I mean, it's no wrong. Not only that, I mean, he can catch the ball out the backfield too. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So you've, we'll talk about you now, not your former teammate, and you're a former Blitnikoff winner at Tennessee. How does it feel to see your name in like the category of Calvin Johnson and all these great wide receivers? And do you feel like there's something to live up to there as you move to the NFL?
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing, to be there and for everybody to vote for me. When I got it, it was. It was a tough one because I was going against Marvin, and he was having a great year.
Yeah.
We all know what Marvin Harrison can do, and he's a special player. So for me to win, it was a blessing because it was a fun year, but at the same time, I had fun, and our team was having fun. We had a great season. Just wish we could finish at that end, but. It was a great year, but as far as living up to expectations, I mean, you do feel some of that pressure just because you're there with the names, Devontae Smith, you got all these guys that's producing in the league that, you want to do the same thing. So, that's really my, my mentality right now, going to next year is, doing what I know I'm capable of doing. Yeah. And, and that it'll be a great year for me, great year 3 for me. Obviously a disappointing year for me this year, but that's all right. The new year, new outcome, and, I can't wait for this year.
No, it's a lot of motivation. Pretty easy.
For sure.
Yeah, now I know I said at the start, the Saquon, probably a question that you're getting a lot this week, but probably the even more asked than that is the Giants quarterback situation, which obviously involves you personally. Just talk to me about how you feel right now, both about the options on the roster right now. Have you looked to see the quarterbacks who are coming in the rookie draft? Like, what's your thought on that situation?
Yeah, I think the only one we got on the roster right now is Tommy DeVito, I'm pretty sure. I think Drew Lock's contract is up, I'm pretty sure. So I think the only one we got on the roster is Tommy. It's obviously you got your players in the draft. Your quarterbacks in the draft. You got your Shador, you got your Cam, you got your the guy from Ole Miss as well.
Oh yeah, Jackson Dart.
And obviously you got some free agents, in the league, who's some vets who have done it in the league and done it at a high rate. So it's going to be, to me, I don't know who it's going to be. I wish I knew, but I don't. But whoever it's going to be, though, we have great players to complement them with. Obviously we got Malik Neighbors. We got Wandell. You got me, you got Slay. You got these guys that can get open, and that's all we need. We just need that quarterback that can do what we're capable of doing. In that receiver room, and at the same time, in our receiver room, we got to continue to get better, and that starts with me. I gotta continue to get better, and we have a great receiver room. I'm really proud about our receiver room. It's just we just gotta be consistent, and that's what we're gonna work on this year.
Kind of a follow-up to that. When you have a new quarterback coming into the room like that, what do you do to start building that chemistry kind of instantly? Because you just experienced that with Drew Lock.
Yeah,
so what
you
do
got to
do
start
there?
right away, and that's what we're going to do. Whoever we draft or we get somebody for agency, whoever our QB1 is going to be, all of us is going to be up there, whatever it's be. We're all going to figure out a way where we can make a trip and start learning the playbook with him, start learning, what he likes in the offense, what plays he likes. And, obviously we're bringing Daves and Joe Shane back. So, it'll be familiar offense, with language, for next year. So for me, it's another year of knowing the playbook, knowing what it is. And, I just got to continue doing what I know I'm capable of doing for next year.
For sure.
Now, you mentioned Drew Lock earlier. Big start for him, Week 17. Obviously, that was a huge win for you guys against the Colts. Is it, even though obviously it's good to get that win, is it a little bit frustrating being like, man, we have this in us. We have the ability to put up 45 points.
Yeah, the frustrating part about it is, we're so on and off.
Yeah.
There's some games we'll come out and, man, we're playing great. We're being consistent, making the right reads, making the right plays, not costing the game, no turnovers. And then we have our games where, we're playing a good game and then we're ruining it by, a fumble or a pick or, we go for it and we don't get it. They get it and they score. That's been our mistakes this year. These little mistakes that cost the game. Yeah. And that's how it goes in the league. And I think that's just something we just got to get better at. We have a young team. We have young guys. And, for us, we just got to be consistent. We got to stop these mental errors, that's costing us games. And it's at least 3 or 4 or 5, really 4 games that cost us this by little mental errors that we lost. And, when that happens, it's tough to win this league.
Now, follow up about that game specifically, because I don't know how much you guys hear this being inside the locker room. I'll tell you from a fan perspective, which is something I don't personally like, but there were like some Giants fans like upset you guys won that game because then it gives you a worse draft position. Yeah. To me, that's kind of crazy because, like, you guys are all playing for a job. You want to win your competitors.
I understand. I understand what they're mad at. Obviously you want to have the first or second pick so you can choose who you want. Yeah. But problem is, we're in the league. We never go out there try to lose games. Right. We get paid. So, and not only that, we're all trying to win. Even with our record of 3, whatever it was, 3 and something, and we go to the Colts like that whole week we're trying to win. Yeah. We have the game plan to win. We never go into any game, saying, hey, let's lose this game so we can, because, that's just not the right way. It's not the right way. Not only that, these guys put their lives in it. We put our lives in football. That's all we do every day. And, what's so hard about it is, when you're losing so many games, you don't want to lose again. That feeling is not a good feeling. When you got to come back that next week, that Tuesday, and watch film, knowing you lost, knowing you didn't do the right things you were supposed to do. It's tough, going to that next week. So, I hate to say it, but we'll never go in to try to lose the game. No. We're always trying to win for sure. Yeah. Even with draft order and all that, we're still trying to win. Yeah.
No, 100%. And so you mentioned, your last year at Tennessee, you wish you could have gotten it over the finish line, and I'm sure you wish the Vols could have gotten it over the finish line this year as well. But after what you saw this year, Nico's first year as a starter, what are your thoughts on the Vols moving forward and what they have moving?
I like Nico a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I like him a lot. I think, especially what he did this year, he had a great year. To me, he had a great year. I do want to see I think we need to add more pieces around him. Obviously, we lost Dylan Sampson. He's coming up, into the draft. And
it could have used
he's gonna be great. But he needs a little more weapons around him. And I know Coach Hype is going to continue. He's going to find that. That's one thing Coach Hype is great at doing is recruiting and getting guys that can do his offense. And with Nico, just seeing what he did this year, they played a lot of big games this year, more than we played, when I was playing because, they made the playoffs.
Right, yeah.
You had to go against Ohio State. You had to go against these teams that we didn't go against. So just for him to get that experience, it's going to help him in the long run for sure.
And kind of a follow-up on Nico, one of the things I find fascinating about him is, he has that volleyball background and stuff like that. And how do you think that, translates? Because, you hear about guys like tight ends a lot. They're former basketball players. That's kind of the book on them. How do you think the volleyball, really translates to helping him out on the field?
I think for him, it definitely translates just because it will make him more of an athlete, make him understand he can run, he can jump. Obviously, throwing motions, hitting it, same thing. But not only that, it's I really think 2-sport, 3-sport athletes, when they go to college and do one sport, those 2-sport, 3-sport, whatever it is, helps you so much because, for me, I play basketball and track, and obviously football. So when I got to college and boom, I was strictly football, the track, the basketball basketball you have agility, moving left and right, being quick. Obviously you got track for speed, endurance. So all those things that I went through, it helped me in college, because I felt faster. I felt like I was in shape, felt the stamina. I felt my quickness by playing basketball. Releases, crossover, same thing. It's the same thing. Everything's kind of the same. It's just, basketball to basketball, football to football. You know what I mean? So when you add those little things to it with these different sports, man, it brings your game to a whole nother level, that you don't even realize. So that's something that I'm grateful that I did when I was young, and probably something that Nico's good at just because he did volleyball. It helps him. It helps in the long run. It really does.
100%.
Now, obviously, I think there are some real bright spots in the Giants offense because you guys got a lot of really good young players, yourself included. Asked you about Saquon earlier, but who I actually thought might have been one of the most underrated rookies in the NFL this year, Tyrone Tracy. Talk to me about his game because it's tough to really produce as a running back when you're maybe don't get the blocking in front of you. There's not as big of a threat as maybe some other quarterbacks might have, but he still produced all season long.
No, he great player.
Yeah.
Great player. One thing I really do like about him is what he can do in the backfield. Like, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. We can put him in a slide and he can run some routes. That's what, to me, separates him. He can run routes, and obviously when he gets the ball in his hands, he's very good. He's very good at seeing the field, his vision. You can see it. Not only that, he can take on tacklers. He's not shying away from contact. He's being aggressive. And as an NFL running back, that's what you have to be. And obviously, there's some games we didn't have the right blocking, like you said, and obviously you're gonna have to sometimes get it by yourself. And he's done that. And I'm proud of what he's done this year. This new year, next year will be a great year for him. Year 2, going to year 2. Year 1 should give him a lot of confidence, going to year 2. So proud of what he has done, and hopefully he can continue to build with that.
He's also a converted wide receiver, from his time in Purdue. So, does that give you in the wide receiver room like a bit of a unique relationship with him? Because
it does. It does. Just because, like I said, you add that receiver stuff and coming to the league, you're a running back, but when we put you out in the slot or put you out to do some receiver stuff, it's not uncomfortable for him. It's comfortable for him because he's done it. So, those little things that you add, it helps your offense in so many ways. So, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of what he's done this year. Year 2 will be a big year for him, and hopefully we can keep building that for him.
All right, let's talk about your partnership with World of Hyatt. You've been with them for 3 years, teamed up this year to create 2 custom find experiences. Talk to me about that.
Yes. Yeah, 2 custom find experiences. We just started it. This is my 3rd year. So one of my favorite endorsements that I ever done. But the custom find experience is going to be like a 2-night free stay. We're doing 2 spots. We're doing one here in New Orleans, Hyatt Centric. It's like 10 minutes away from here, right there on Bourbon Street. And then we're doing one in New York. Park is called Park Hyatt, one of the best Hyatt hotels that they have to offer in New York City. 2 free nights. You get the whole experience of the Jalin Hyatt experience. You can get it by typing in hyatt.experience.com. So it's a very good partnership. We try to add something new every year. And just for going into the 3rd year, we felt like this was a great thing to do, just to help people around, help them with free nights, and guys, people who stays at Hyatt's and who has these points, it'll help them benefit them in the long run. So one of my favorite endorsements for sure.
I encourage everyone to check that out. I'm always curious. Obviously, you guys don't play in New York, and I assume from what I hear, most Giants players and Jets players don't live in New York. How much time do you actually spend in New York City as a member of a New York football team?
Yeah, I'll go to the city if I'm trying to find good food or do something fun. That's when I usually go to the city. But the city is so packed sometimes, man. You gotta kind of understand. You gotta have your schedule. You gotta have your schedule for the day, just because of how packed it is in the city. So anytime I go out there is either obviously going for food or having a good time with some of my friends or whatever. But I'm rarely in the city though. You're right. I'm always in Jersey. I'm in New Jersey. That's where our facility's at. That's where I'm close to. But that's where most all our players stay is in New Jersey. So, that's where it is.
New York City is quite a change of pace from Knoxville, really Tennessee. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much for joining us, Jalin. I got one last question for you. Just give me an overview of what your off season looks like ahead in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I'll be in Dallas. I'll be in Dallas training. I'll start early. I'll be down there the 10th. So I'll be training there for 3 months. Obviously getting ready for OTAs and training camp. And, one thing about, NFL is, we have this off season, but it goes by quick. It goes by quick, real quick. And sooner or later, right there, we're at the preseason. So, this year I want to start early. This is year 3 for me. It's a big year coming up for me. So I just want to be prepared, want to be ready. I got a lot of things that I got to do. So I'm going to start early for this, for sure.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, check out experiences.hyatt.com. Thank you so much.
Best of luck to you, man.
Good luck. All right, perfect. So there you go. Next up, we got Mark.
Appreciate it, man.
Mark Carman will be up next. We'll obviously be talking to him about the Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah.
And we got a lot to talk to him about the Bears about.
Yeah, it's a big offseason for the Bears.
Yeah, so we kind of jumped in there. As soon as we went live, I turned around and Jalin was already sitting there. I didn't see him come up. So early thoughts on Super Bowl week. We are 1 day into it.
Mm-hmm.
You had a flight issue. Had to miss opening night last night.
Yep.
You did watch it. So you've been here now, coming up in 24 hours. Quick thoughts.
Yes, I mean it's the scale of it, man. It's kind of crazy, and I think there's so many cool features, and like just seeing this set up for Radio Row, like I think kind of stood out to me because we have there's the fan experience starting tomorrow, which I'm excited to go to. Excited, get some stuff up on socials there, but like at the same time, you're just in Radio Row right now, and it's almost a fan experience of itself. Like if you're a football guy, like this is pretty darn cool, man.
This is the dream, for sure.
Yeah.
And there we go. We got Carm. Carm joining us.
Mark
What's going on,
Carman,
man?
what's up, man?
Hey, good to see you.
Hello, gentlemen. How are we?
We are doing fantastic, Carm. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, we got to talk Bears with you.
You do what?
We got to talk Chicago Bears.
Oh, okay, yes, absolutely. I'd love to.
Are you exhausted about talking about the Bears at this point? Because it's got to be tough to be a Bears guy.
Well, look, I mean, I was 11 years old in 1985 when the greatest team of all time won the Super Bowl 46-10 and beat the New England Patriots. So I don't really think about anything other than that when it comes to the Bears. Like, it's cool that we have Caleb Williams now and the best offseason head coaching hire in Ben Johnson and building a sweet staff, and Eric Bieniemy is willing to be our running backs coach, and Dennis Allen's a established defensive coordinator. But of course, who knows if that's ever going to work out because they are the Bears, and we've yet to figure out the quarterback situation, but maybe this will be the one.
I got to say, because that's a great point. You have a Super Bowl you can go back and look at. With the teams I cheer for, I'm a Maple Leafs and Atlanta Falcons fan, diehard fans. I don't have championships to go back. It feels like it's a little bit easier to go through bad years with teams if you have one chance. I mean, 85 is kind of long ago.
Yeah, well, right, but it was in the formative years, and then after 85 came Jordan, and that was the greatest sporting experience like a kid could ever have.
Right. So
you kind of feel like, all right, well, it's never going to be better than that, so we'll just survive and go through it. But the thing is, from this seat, right, the Bears are the content machine that never stops.
100%.
They just keep doling it out, so it's like, hey, man, I appreciate you. You make it easy for us as far as being interesting.
So
dysfunctional, but interesting.
Yeah, definitely. There's no question about that. And I mean, I'm in a similar experience, a little more recent, but probably about the same time. I'm a Cowboys fan, and when I started watching football right before I go to kindergarten, they won a Super Bowl. I'm like, we're going to see this every single year, man. And 30 years later, we have not seen it. So
well, we got to thank you on Dallas because you guys have the longest drought in the NFC now. Right, 29 years since playing in the NFC Championship game.
It's a tough life out there, But you mentioned Ben Johnson, and I kind of wanted to get why do you call it the best coaching hire of the offseason? Like I know he's he's the wonder kid and everything that he did in Detroit, but why are you high on him for Chicago?
Well, I was being slightly hyperbolic, but
okay.
but why I like the hire. Listen, the floor for him is offensive guru.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who can help Caleb Williams reach however high he can reach, at least from a strategy standpoint, that to me that's a good floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now the upside is he the next Kyle Shanahan? His press conference was very impressive. He's staring everybody in the eye. He's got that. He seems like he seemed like a leader to me. I wouldn't think that Dan Campbell's got a bunch of weak soldiers on his staff. So he's not going to be Dan, but can he have some of that as part of his makeup? I would think that's obviously in there. And look, the Bears have hired the Matt Eberfluses and the Mark Trestmans of the world, where you're sitting there like, who? Oh, he was coaching in Canada. Oh, he was no offense. But I get it. It's a good one. It's a good one. But but here it's like, oh, the number one guy on the market that everybody else wanted, you hired him. That doesn't work out. Well, okay, that it didn't work out, but you didn't do something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You paid the money, $13 million a year. You went and got the top guy. You can't fault the Bears if this goes sideways.
You have to obviously be a little bit concerned about the trend that has now gone on for a number of years with the Bears, where it's to get a quarterback, year one doesn't go great, blame the coach, get rid of the coach, bring in a new coach, then it's the quarterback's fault, and it's a cycle. Is this going to be the end of the cycle? Do they have their guy both at quarterback and coach?
So I am a little nervous about Caleb.
Okay.
I don't know if he can. Look, you take 68 sacks. You could put some on the offensive line, but a lot of them are on you, not getting rid of the football. Pressure, that's the fault of the offensive line. But at some point, you got to read what's in front of you, figure out how to get rid of the football. Maybe you didn't need to, at week 3, if he was taking a ton of sacks, by the end of the year, he's taking less than that. And he did do some of that. He did get better as it went along. But a lot of that was on him. So he has to become better at knowing what he's doing out there, but he took a lot of sacks in college too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, can he figure it out? I think he can, but I'm not sure.
I mean, is some of that a little Justin Fields PTSD? Because a lot of those issues are some of those things that were going on with Justin Fields as well.
So it's a fair one with Justin, but like the thing with Justin is, he didn't have the ability to throw on the move like Caleb does. He and even just his maneuverability in the pocket, like Caleb will hang in there. Justin, if you pressured him, he's going to take off.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb, it's more improvisational as opposed to just not reading the pressure well.
Yeah, and look, when you say the PTSD part about it, it's not just Justin.
Well, yeah,
it's Mitch, it's Cutler, it's. We can start going back. It's Rex Grossman. We just, start going back at the time of just quarterback after quarterback after quarterback that didn't hit their ceiling or what you thought their ceiling could be in Chicago.
What about their defense? Are you optimistic about the defense in Chicago right now? Because obviously the talk is all about the offense and Caleb Williams, but where does the defense stand right now? Because they were fine at times this year, but they got some issues too.
Right. So it's interesting because Myles Garrett's the big name out there, wants to be traded, yada yada, and people are doing a Khalil Mack comparison as far as the compensation. If the Bears were one player away from the offense being ready to win a Super Bowl, I would say go out and get Myles Garrett, and your defense is fixed. You really just need one real wrecker in there to pair with Montez Sweat up front. Linebackers are good, even better than good. Although Tremaine Edmonds has been a way overpaid. That signing just doesn't look great.
Yeah. Secondary
is very solid. Jalen Johnson's a good football player. Kyle Gordon's a good football player. Jaquan Brisker with his concussion issues, that's a question mark going into next year. But overall, the secondary's there. But they do need that wrecker, and if you can't get to the quarterback, then in my mind you got a mediocre, middle-of-the-road defense, and that's what the Bears have right now. So can they draft a guy to maybe they do that at 10 who can pair with Sweat and have that level of impact? Or do they go crazy and trade for Myles Garrett? I mean, they've tried to address the 3-tech, but they just haven't found it yet. And so, Dennis Allen, he was pretty honest when he did his introductory press conference. Yeah, well, I like some of the things up front. He's well. It seemed like he was well aware that they need some upgrades there.
Dennis Allen's not one to mince words, so he'll tell you how he feels. Like think back at Kendre Miller with the Saints, where he just, he didn't let him off the hook easy. So you're talking, the Bears are not one player away, but what free agent or even draft pick, if you've looked at some of the draft class, like what guy are you looking at that could be like a big step in the right direction for Chicago?
So it's interesting because, I think the Bears need to draft offensive linemen.
I agree.
Will Campbell's the number one guy, but they're not sure about his arm length. Is he going to play inside? Which is fine, by the way. The Bears need help on the outside. The Bears need help on the inside.
Right.
But are you using the number 10 pick on somebody where you're not exactly sure where you're going to play him? Trey Smith, are you going to be, are the Chiefs actually going to let him go? And would the Bears be willing to pay him $21, $22 million a year, which ideally you'd rather draft the guy in the 6th round and take a flyer on a guy who's got blood clot issues, and then you get him on that level of deal. But the Bears are in a position where they're going to have to get a draft pick right and pay a lot of money to add on as well. And then they still have too many holes, though. So it's like, how do you put this whole thing together to actually win now? I think it's a pretty steep hill.
What are your thoughts on the NFC North as a whole? Because all season, everyone was talking about best division in football, and then Lions one and done, Packers one and done, Vikings one and done. So was the regular season bye more specifically the Vikings, but I kind of throw the Packers in that too. Is it fraudulent? Are they not as good as what their record was? Like, what's going on in the division?
It's a great question, right? I mean, I think they're all solid. I think they're all playoff teams. Minnesota, what do they do with Darnold? Are they going to pivot and go to JJ? I would think you would franchise Darnold, bring him back, and let maybe you end up pivoting midseason, something along those lines. But look, you got playmakers. The defense is solid. Green Bay is a good football team, but none of them, to your point, are elite like you thought Detroit would be this year. But like if Detroit gets healthy again, even though they're losing literally their entire coaching staff, basically, I still think the Lions are a really good football team. So it's to add in the degree of difficulty of the Bears. I don't think the division's I don't think this year was a fluke. I think they're all good teams. And maybe not the top of the NFC, but they're all good. They're all good football teams. The Bears are going to have their serious work cut out for them to rise through the muck and not be and actually be making the playoffs in the NFC North.
So one thing, and you mentioned earlier, like Ben Johnson may not try to be Dan Campbell, and I don't think that's his personality necessarily either. But I also think is there any worry that imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, but it also doesn't really work out in the coaching world. And is there any worry about that on your end as a Bears fan?
I was worried about what kind of staff are you going to put together because he's 38, hadn't been around. He spent a lot of time in Detroit, and he did have to meander his way some. But I was like, who are you getting? Because Dan Campbell's not going to let you guys just coach the staff, but he did allow him to take Antoine Randall, and he's told him go hire Dennis Allen, and he just the offensive line coach that they just hired, Dan Rochar, and that was another Campbell recommendation. So Dan's done him well.
Yeah.
So I was more worried about the staff than can you do this because you're going to need help. You're a first-time head coach, and it's interesting. Like Eric Bieniemy, that's a guy who's wanted to be a head coach. I would be leery if I was a first-time head coach putting someone like that on my staff because you would think he wants your job, but he went and did it. So to me, that shows a confidence that hey, I know that I'm going to do well, and I'm not going to worry about anybody else's aspirations. I know this guy's going to coach my running backs incredibly well and be an asset in the coaching room.
Excuse my ignorance for this next question. I'm not a Chicago guy. Don't know the answer. What's going on at the stadium? Like, I keep hearing reports. It's in the city. It's somewhere else. It's Dome. It's like, what's the latest on the new stadium?
So Bears bought land in the suburbs, $200 million worth, which is, it's a decent chunk of change for the normal person, right? But then they went and hired Kevin Warren to be their CEO and president, and he was like, yeah, that's cool, but what about the city? And then Kevin, I think, has had to learn the politics of the city and the state and find out for himself that there's not money and how much and how to whatever money he thinks he can get, how to meander his way to find it. So the bottom line is that the Bears want to be in the city.
Right.
And Chicago actually has enough leverage with the suburban side in Arlington Heights because the Bears want money for infrastructure around the site in the suburbs. And my understanding is that there's enough politics at play that as long as the city is invested in then having them, they can delay that part. So it's really just in no man's land right now is my understanding.
Is there any word about if it's going to be dome or is it going to be open?
It's definitely going to be a dome.
Definitely going to be. How do you feel about that? Because that feels like not Chicago football.
Right, I hate it, but I'll get over it.
Yeah.
They're going to do I think they want to do exactly what Minnesota did with their stadium. So you got all the light coming in, and it sort of feels like you're outside, but you're not outside, that type of thing. So it's not going to be retractable. They're not going to spend on that. So it'll be a beautiful 75-degree day in September. Global warming, probably 100 degrees, and
right.
and we'll be indoors.
You mentioned Michael Jordan earlier, and I know, that's your guy, and you're always going to bring a lot of things back to Michael Jordan. And so since we're at the Super Bowl, is what Mahomes is doing right now, is that the closest thing we've seen in sports to what Jordan did in his prime in the 90s?
So that's – I love good Richard's laughing at this because that, we can't – this is not apples to apples. There is no MJ comparison out there. But to your point, well – and look, if I could compliment Patrick, MJ didn't win right when he came in. This guy just got to the league and hasn't done anything but, not either win Super Bowls or go to the conference championship game, which is completely and utterly insane.
Yeah.
Like basketball and another Mahomes to Jordan comparison to the brilliance of your question is like, when people look at this game, well, the Eagles are better on the offensive side of the ball, the Eagles are better on the defensive side of the ball, but I'm picking the Chiefs because of Mahomes, which is a very Jordan-esque thing.
Yep.
You betting against Mike, and I know I'm not, and the only time that worked, even when he didn't have help around him, was when Detroit was good enough to beat him up and whatnot. So, what's interesting to me with I'm going to pivot this question because I can't even think about the MJ stuff. But what's interesting is like if you ask football fans right now, who would you rather have, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady? You'd have a very split populace on that. One game, Mahomes or Brady. And this is, he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
He hasn't even had half the career that Tom had. Tom's got 35 playoff wins, top of the food chain. You guys all know this. Patrick Mahomes has 17 with a long runway to go. So is he going to pass Brady? I would bet that he does.
Oh, yeah.
Last question. I'm going to pivot away from football for a second. Are you a Blackhawks guy at all?
Not really, but I was. For some reason, for me, basketball and the Bulls and the Blackhawks both playing at the stadium, growing up, there was like a rivalry for me. I wanted the Bulls to be more popular than the Hawks, which sounds crazy, but the Blackhawks always sold out, and the Bulls did it before Mike came along. So it's somehow I rivalried that thing and never became a huge hockey fan.
Blackhawks have had some real issues.
Yes.
Connor Bedard has not fixed the issues in Chicago for the Hawks.
He is not.
No.
He is no Zach Best.
Who is though?
Exactly right.
All right, thank you so much for coming on, Carman.
Yeah.
You can follow him on Twitter at X at the Carm. Anything else you want to promote really quick?
No, but I appreciate it. Well, just how much Fansided has forever helped me and it's in my heart, and I'm so damn happy to that you guys bring me back come Super Bowl. So thanks for doing it, and I appreciate talking to you.
Wouldn't have it any other way, man.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. All right, there you have it. Let's keep things rolling here. I believe next up we got Ryan Leaf, who I'm interested to talk to
absolutely.
once he gets here because he is a bettor now. So I want to talk to him about that because obviously I am a sports betting guy. I have not talked enough betting this week. Obviously, last night at the opening night, I could not go up to players and be like, hey, I did actually want to ask them. I didn't end up doing it, and I regret it. I wanted to ask them what color is their Gatorade on the sideline.
Oh, yeah. You got to know.
2 years in a row it's been purple for the Chiefs. That's the favorite this year. Is it going to be purple again? I thought about asking. I didn't.
It would have been a good question, Ian. I think you dropped the ball for us there.
Yeah, I might have. Cody, before Ryan Leaf comes over, have you done a lap of Radio?
I did. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you notice the PXG thing?
Yes, the simulator. Yes, and Megan, my boss at fansided.com, she looked at me and said, "Well, I know where we're headed when we wrap today."
Yeah, she's
and I
a
was
golfer
like,
too. I found that out last night.
100%.
Obviously, the two of us hosted Green on the Greens for a couple of years there. I do think, and she can obviously come with us. We can make it a 3-person competition. We got to have a close to the pin competition.
Got to, absolutely. I have not swung a club in probably 2 to 3 months, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I've swung clubs a couple times, played some simulator golf. I need to know if they have gloves there.
Oh, yeah, you're the double glove bandit.
I'm the double glove bandit. I got I'm having a real clammy hands issue while I'm here. If I don't have gloves, the club might just come right out. So
just go right through the simulator, right through the screen.
We did check. I went there with Sterling Holmes yesterday. They do have left-handed clubs. So
okay, there we go.
I am set for that.
I forget you're a lefty. I forget about that.
Yes,
yeah.
Very uncommon. Actually, Sterling is a lefty too, which is extremely uncommon for Americans to golf left. So
lefty stacking the box podcast. Love to see it.
While we have a couple minutes here, I don't think you and I have actually talked about who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. Is it Chiefs? Is it as easy as it's Mahomes? Take Chiefs.
I think it is, honestly. Unfortunately,
is that your Cowboys fan bias coming in a little bit? You don't want to back the Eagles?
No, I like being right way more than I'm a fan of anything. I think,
amen, brother.
Amen. It's the ego in me. I just want to be right, and so. When I come down to it, I think that it's not just Mahomes, though. I think that's, a little I think that diminishes the whole point of it. It's the Chiefs. It's Andy Reid. It's Steve Spagnuolo. And I think that when you look at this, it's Mahomes and his greatness, but you also have this Chiefs coaching staff that's been in this spot before, that they know the preparation that it takes. And that's not to say that Nick Sirianni, and obviously the Eagles have been here before, but the Chiefs know what it takes to get to the pinnacle and know what it takes to win. And, I think that the Chiefs, the other thing that I keep coming away with, you watch them win all these games, and I know you've been vocal about, they're lucky and stuff like that. But I also think that there is something to the fact that they've been in these spots and there's no panic. It's a comfort level that you can't really teach.
Yeah. Yeah, I've turned a new leaf. I am now a Chiefs guy. I believe in the Chiefs. I bet on the Chiefs big to win the AFC Championship. Too many times over the past few years had I bet against the Chiefs in big games, in playoff spots, in the Super Bowl, and this just seems like deja vu. And they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If I bet against the Chiefs again this Super Bowl, I would be insane. 2 years ago, they played the Eagles, and I'm a stats-based guy. I listed all the stats the Eagles are better at than the Chiefs, and I said you got to back the better team. The Eagles are the better team. Chiefs win. Last year, 49ers. I could list almost every single metric you want to look at. The 49ers were the better team. Chiefs win. This year, I wrote it in my betting preview. The amount of stats the Eagles outrank the Chiefs in.
Yeah.
It's basically every single one except for the Chiefs allow fewer sacks, barely. And then third down conversion rate and success rate. Everything else, the Eagles outrank them. So that, if I was looking at it the same way I was looking at it the past 2 years, I would back the Eagles again, but I can't do it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm going to go, and we're going to get Ryan Leaf's opinion on this.
We'll let him join us.
Now. Joining us now, Ryan Leaf. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Nice.
We're talking a little bit of gambling, so I think you're the right man to come on there.
Yeah. Can we talk betting with you?
I don't gamble though, but
I have. Well, I've seen you on VEASAN, so you at least.
But I don't gamble, but I advise people on how to.
There we go.
That's all we need.
I'm very good.
Yes. Well, I mean, and that leads me to my very first question. Once again, you said you don't gamble. You give out your analysis about picks. Do you think being an NFL quarterback allows you to kind of analyze these games to an extent that other people can't? People who haven't.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And then, I was given the show with PointsBet 2 years ago. And as it turns out, I'm really good. My 2-season total against the spread was I was 30 games over 500.
There we go.
At the NFL level. And almost 40 games over 500 at the collegiate level. So, yes, to answer your question, I do. I think I see it from a different place than just the analytical, the numbers. I see it from the personnel, the emotions and feelings that may go on during the week, things that I don't know if analysts working in sports books and stuff over the years have really added as variables. And it's really benefited me in the job that I get to do and makes it more exciting.
I've always felt when trying to, I'm a bettor myself. I write about it. I bet all the time. I actually bet all 272 NFL regular season games. I call it the road to 272. I've always felt if I could have an insider in each locker room who could tell me what each team's weekly game plan is, I would be way better at being able to predict the outcome. Because how much of an NFL game has to do with the game plan for each team? Because that can change on a weekly basis.
It can, but the best teams are the ones that have a base in place that they do not, move off from, where there's consistency. When you're trying to do something for the first time in an NFL game, there's going to be problems. Now, there's sometimes when you go up against the defense where you can take advantage of a situation, but the offense and the play you decide on is still rooted in the base of what you've done. It has to. If you try to change your offense or defense every single week versus what kind of team you're playing and stuff like that, it's just not a recipe for success. And so where you should look at is teams that are rooted and based in what they do over and over and over and over and over again. That's why Washington was so darn good this year. It is. You hate to say it, it's a Michael Leach offense that they ran, which was a very small play sheet that they ran over and over and over again. Turned into a little bit of a triple option with the run-pass option with Jaden Daniels, and he was spectacular at it. And it was easily repeatable, like a great golf swing, and that's what made him so good.
Yeah, at the very least, the player prop market. I don't know if you've given advice on player props, but
I had a really great partner at PointsBet. I had Ariel Epstein, Prop Queen.
Prop Queen, shout out.
Prop Queen, and she helped me a ton.
Yes.
Like especially at the collegiate level, there's just so much information, and they just almost phone it in sometimes in some of the prop markets. And I'm like, and she just showed me amazing ways to go out and find ways to, support and influence people to be able to make money, because the market's crazy if you can find the right spots.
Was there a team specifically you felt that the betting market this season, the odds were way off how good or maybe even how bad you thought a team was?
I didn't really, screw down until the playoffs kind of came around. So I wasn't taking a real hard look at it outside of what the point spreads were each week and what the props were for guys and stuff like that until I had to, when I started, picking up the mic and doing it for Visa in there late in the year. So, once you kind of get outside that world and you're just doing it as an analyst, it doesn't like as a quarterback. I never once the entire time of my playing career ever thought about a spread or a line or anything like that. It just never registered. The only time it ever did was in college, and it was because it was such an outrageous line. We were 58-point favorites over Boise, or 56-point favorites over Boise in 1997.
Did you cover?
We beat them 58-0.
There we go.
I remember them we covered every game, by the way, in 97.
Okay.
So whoever bet on us in 97,
there we go.
We made them a happy year. I learned that later from a bettor.
Of course, yeah.
You guys covered every year, or all game. The thing for me was Coach came in like on Tuesday of game week and was like trying to get our heads straight, and he was like, "You are not 56 points better than this team. Like, this is absurd," and just really tried to bat that down all week, and then we beat him 58-0. I remember talking to Coach after the game. I was like, "Thanks, Coach. I knew it. We were 58 better, huh?"
That's a good line.
Yeah. You just don't pay attention to those things unless you are in an occupation at the time that makes you really think about it. It's funny. I think as a player, that's more easily put into compartmentalized than it is maybe for somebody else who hasn't played but has kind of viewed it through the lens of a sports book or sports betting their entire life.
100%. So let's focus on this game, obviously, and looking at the over/under, like, do you have a lean early on this game?
Did it go down to 48.5 now?
48.5 last I checked. I'll double check, but yeah.
I liked it at 49.5 as an over.
Okay.
I love it at 48.5 as an over. I have it in a 3-leg parlay.
Okay.
With an alternate line for the Eagles, so I have plus 9.5 for Philly.
Okay.
And then I have it with over 40. I have it at over 49.5. And then a prop to go with that. Jalin Hurts anytime touchdown, and I think it's a plus 325.
I've been hearing a lot of people who like Jalin Hurts touchdown.
That prop is almost an instant casher every week, and the fact that if you can get it for plus money, I mean, how many times are you in a situation for the tush pushed inside the 5-yard line, 3-yard line, like he's getting in the end zone?
Yeah, 100%.
And I did it so many times last year, where that was like just a leg on a prop that I knew was going to cash, so I threw it on something that it just with an already high. Odds differential, and it just paid last year, and so that's my go-to for this game. I was thinking about Saquon getting the touchdown, but I feel like that Jalen's more apt to get a touchdown than Saquon in this game.
Well, let me ask you about that, the tush push specifically. Some people are a little concerned about that bet because the Chiefs are able to stop Josh Allen 4 or 5 times in the AFC Championship on the QB sneak. I think the tush push the Eagles do is a completely different thing. I don't think you can compare what they do, what the Bills are doing, right?
No.
Can anyone stop the tush push?
No. It's absolutely the most devastating and highest percentage of success that there is. No, the Chiefs aren't going to stop that play. The fact that they think they stopped the play with Josh Allen was the fact that it wasn't the same. Josh didn't get pushed. Like, Josh tried to navigate his own way.
He was going to the left every time.
So it's not the same thing. I like that. That's my Super Bowl. That's my Super Bowl bet. That's the one I think cashes for everybody this year. You're safe if the Eagles win, or they're not going to get beat by more than 9.5. That's for dang sure.
What's your take on the tush push in general? Some people think it should be illegal.
I don't know if the pushing part from behind, like I don't like the sneak part. Like, I think a lot of times, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of times Jalin does it all on his own with his strength and everything like that. There are times where he gets that extra push to kind of get him over the top. I would probably be a guy that says I don't know if I like the pushing part from behind, but this is an offensive game, and the NFL is certainly not going to try to do something to limit offensive power or fireworks or points.
Now, I noticed as a bettor this year, favorites were not only winning, covering a lot, and it just seemed like most NFL years there's a little bit more upsets, more parity. Do you think favorites kind of dominating from start to finish, is that just kind of a one-off this season type of thing? Does that say anything larger about the NFL as a whole, that we kind of have 5 great teams and then like a few middling and then like a ton of really bad teams?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah.
I do think that this was the first year for me where I looked around the league every week and saw I do not like going with double-digit favorites in this league. I think 10 points in the NFL league in terms of a league that's really become kind of a one-possession league. We saw a lot of double-digit lines this year, and for me, I'd always jump on the dog on that one and take the points and just be all over it because I thought it was gonna win you every time. This year, you had double-digit guys, teams that were covering, and it just was really foreign for a lot of people. So if you really went in on some of the favorites this year, you had a good year. But I do think that's a bit of an anomaly. I think that everything kind of comes back to itself. If you look, it was just teams were like 14-3 and 5-13 this year. There wasn't a bunch of 9 and 8s, which I think there's a lot normally of where it goes to. There were some better teams and worse teams this year that I think kind of comes back to that place eventually down the road.
So you mentioned Jaden Daniels early, and he had a phenomenal season, but you talked about the Commanders making things easy for him. The small playbook and just kind of running things off of that. On the flip side of that, we also saw guys like Caleb Williams struggle. Are there any warning signs or red flags you see when dealing with a rookie quarterback that kind of set off alarm bells a little bit?
Yeah, don't fire your head coach.
Yeah.
Mid-season. Don't have 3 offensive play callers in your ear for your first season
That's
in the
right.
NFL.
Yep.
I mean, consistency is where you see success.
Yeah.
What did Washington do best? They went out and got a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback. Chicago's never done that. Like, they've always had a lame duck quarterback or a lame duck coach at the time when they replaced these guys. There's never been a association at the same time. So it's just, I think they really set him up for failure. I do think, though, what he did in college did not translate to the NFL game in terms of he made plays by vacating the back of the pocket and using his legs and athleticism. You can't do that at the NFL level. That doesn't happen. 300-pounders are faster than you now. And he found out the hard way. He got sacked all year long. And at times, first halves of games during that losing streak, it looked like they did not know how to play offensive football, like at all. They were so bad. And then he had to become this athlete late down the stretch, and he put up some numbers, and he wouldn't take a lot of risks, and he didn't throw an interception, and they still would lose. So I think Ben Johnson is the right answer. The only thing that I have a problem with is that Ben Johnson's offensive scheme is based in timing, and that's something that Caleb Williams has not done well. Right? That's not his game. So the hope is you just don't hear from Caleb all summer long. You don't really hear of anything until you see the season open up next year, and he looks like a more polished, more on-time passer because the offense dictates that and puts them and gives them success because of it.
I want to ask you about a different rookie quarterback. I'm a Falcons guy. Michael Penix, 3 starts, not a ton to go off of. Anything that you saw that was promising for Penix? I thought he was really calm in the pocket, which might have been the thing that I was most impressed about. Only 3 starts. Did anything stick out to you that's going to make me feel optimistic about Penix moving forward?
Well, you can go to my May 24th, 2024 list of who I thought was the best quarterbacks going into the draft, and Michael Penix Jr. is the number 1 guy on that list. So he was my favorite quarterback. I thought if he were in the draft 2 years ago after his junior season, he would have been the number 1 pick in my eyes. I've never seen a guy more accurate further down the field than he was at Washington. And also he did not take sacks. And those are the 2 things that you need at the NFL level. Ball gets out quick, ball gets out decisive, and he's accurate. Like anything, they felt comfortable to bench Kirk Cousins, a $50 million guy, and throw in a rookie in a playoff run at the end of the year and really close to winning it. Like if they beat Washington in that game, it's a different story. Like Atlanta's in the playoffs, Tampa Bay isn't. And so that's a big deal. And so you give him an off season to prepare, to be the guy. He's a special guy. This year's quarterback class, I think, is going to really represent 3 winners. Really, first and foremost, you're going to have Jaden Daniels, you're going to have Bo Nix, and you're going to have Michael Penix Jr. We'll wait and see with Williams and May and McCarthy. I just don't think we have enough data on whether those teams can be any good. Quarterbacks may ultimately be decent, but Like the teams may not be any good when it's all said and done. And if the teams aren't any good, I don't care how great you play. People are not going to look at you and go, "Oh man, you're a winner." No, you're not. You don't win. And so that's a big part of it.
So, you had Penix #1 last year, and looking at this upcoming quarterback class in the 2025 NFL Draft, Penix was not the consensus #1. Are you with the consensus on this year's draft class with Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at the top, or is there another guy that has your eye?
I mean, those are probably the two guys that everybody's talking about the most. I don't think there's a quarterback this year that has a first-round grade, though.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and unfortunately, you're going to have a guy with a second-round grade that's going to be drafted in probably the top 5.
Right.
And those are expectations that aren't or shouldn't be on him. He's not choosing
No.
that. All he's doing is playing well in college and being considered that, and general managers are fearing the idea of missing out on a next great quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I have a favorite. I would say Shedeur has probably the best pedigree, just the technique, fundamentals, the history of being raised by his father, the background. Cam has come from Incarnate Word as a no-star at Washington State, and he's just risen and risen and risen. The family seems to be kind of enjoying the ride a little bit.
Yeah.
Dad is, we'll see. He chose not to play in the Senior Bowl. When handed the evidence of like, you and Shedeur are going up against each other. Shadeur's doing this East-West Shrine game. We're going to be there. Tennessee is going to coach this game. They have the first pick. The Giants are going to coach this game. They're going to have a high pick. I mean, what a perfect opportunity. And he just didn't go to the Senior Bowl. And that just the guy that did, and I thought really made a difference, was Riley Leonard.
Okay.
And I think what Notre Dame offered him in terms of offense this year was I don't think it did him I think it did him a disservice, because I don't think they were very I don't think they did a lot offensively. I think he was asked to run the football and then kind of throw it sometimes. Where he was great was in the second half of that game against Ohio State, where he almost brought him back.
Yeah.
Great throws. Ran with a pro-style offense in Mobile, completed every throw that they were asking him to make, was a leader of the leaders there. I probably think people think of him as like a third-day guy. Like if he were able to maybe slide up and be a second-day guy late, I think whoever gets him, I think you got maybe a Jalin Hurts scenario where you got a guy that maybe a lot of guys didn't think when he went to Philly, other than to kind of be some competition, to kind of be a good backup. I knew when Jalin got picked by them that he was going to be the starter, because the dude just outworks everybody.
Yeah.
Riley outworks everybody. So if he goes to a place in the second round or early in the third, I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Leonard is a starting quarterback within 2 years.
I mentioned I've seen you on VSiN. You have your own podcast as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff. I do the Last Mile Radio with Sirius XM. That's a big one. I go into prisons. I tell guys stories who are getting out and who are going to try to change their life with the programming they learned in there with the Last Mile Foundation. I do a lot of stuff based around those purposeful things, because I don't think I get to do all the cool stuff with VSiN and PointsBet and Sirius XM and call football games. If that isn't the foundation of who I am, and that's about giving back. And so those are the things that are important to me, and all the other stuff is just cool things I get to do.
Right.
And that makes me really lucky, because if you would have told me 10 years ago when I walked out of a prison cell that this was going to be my life and I would get to do all this cool stuff, I would have told you were crazy. Yeah. No way that's going to happen, right?
Right.
And so really grateful and happy and excited for what's ahead.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Yeah, hit that three-leg parlay. You're going to cash that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Can't wait, man.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care. All right, there you go. We are getting close to the end of the first, I guess, official day of Radio Row. I know we were here yesterday. I don't think we recorded. Well, I didn't record anything. Maybe Arrow.
I was barely here yesterday. So
you got in just enough time to check into the hotel, and then it was just ready.
That's right.
We do got one more guest coming up here in a little bit, DJ Dozier at the top of the hour. But until then, let's talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl, Cody. That was three-leg parlay is interesting.
Yeah,
any prop bets that you've looked at for this week?
So I mean, like you mentioned it, like the Jalin Hurts anytime touchdown bet is one of the most popular ones I've seen on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and so we've seen that quite a bit. I'm really looking at Xavier Worthy's yardage numbers in this one, because I feel like Xavier Worthy got a little bit of a bad rap throughout the season, because, they did take him as a first-round pick, and he seemed like kind of a gadget guy early in the season, but as the season went on, you start to look at what his numbers were in comparison to someone like Rashee Rice last year,
Yeah.
they're actually pretty on par, and Rashee Rice followed a very similar pattern. And throughout the playoffs, Worthy's been kind of the go-to guy in this offense when they need a play and, getting a high volume of targets. So I'm kind of looking at his yardage totals, and that's a place I'm really considering looking at.
Yeah, so as that opening night last night, I actually got to ask Xavier Worthy a couple questions. He was at one of the podiums. Wish I could kind of put out that clip, but I was recording on like one of those microphones, and I was holding it up too close to my mouth and then not close enough to their mouth.
Oh,
no. Completely unusable. But what was interesting was actually something that you just brought up. He had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but I asked him if there was a game that he felt things started to click. Because if you look at his numbers starting about halfway through this season, he really kind of cranked it up a notch, and he actually said it was the game against the Bills, and I'm just bringing up exactly what his stat line was in that game. That was November 17th. 5 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown, and yeah, he's right, because right after that, before that, 4 catches, 11 yards, 2 targets, 0 catches the week before that. So that game against the Bills, and that was one that they actually lost, the Chiefs did, 30-21. He went on a tear. 6 catches, 46 yards. 7 catches, 54 yards. 6 catches, and then 11 catches. Or, sorry, I'm looking at targets. 11 targets, but 6 catches, 7 catches. And then, obviously, in the playoffs, he cranked things up a notch, and he has kind of taken over as the sole number 1 guy at the receiver position for Kansas City.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, because I think that, I'm more of a draft guy than you are, and kind of the book on Worthy coming out of Texas was, obviously he broke the combine record. Dude has speed for days, but he's also light. He's also not a big guy. So, like, when Rashee Rice went down, it was curious to see if he could develop into something more than that gadget speed player. And you asked me earlier if I'm going with the Chiefs on this, and I mentioned the coaching staff. I think it's another credit to the coaching staff. Like, they know how to develop these guys, man. Like, there's so many guys who have come into Kansas City and have, had question marks, and they don't bat 100%. No one does. No team does. And you've got your Sky Moores in there that didn't totally work out for this team, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But at the same time, like, you also have your Trey Smiths, you have your Creed Humphreys, and like those guys were taken day 2, but Humphrey was taken day 2. Trey Smith obviously fell because of a blood clot issue, but you see these guys, and they're not just good. They become like all-pro caliber. And so, like, seeing someone like Worthy, seeing Andy Reid find the right, pass for him to succeed, it's not surprising.
Yeah. You mentioned Xavier Worthy totals for this game in terms of the prop market. I'm going to throw out a name, Juju Smith-Schuster, who, if you look at some of the numbers, he has kind of taken over as the number 3 guy in Kansas City at the wide receiver position. Obviously, Xavier Worthy, number 1, Marquise Hollywood Brown, number 2. DeAndre Hopkins was kind of, at some times this season, like the number 1, the number 2. He's kind of dropped down to like the number 4. I think even in the AFC Championship, I think he played only 18% of snaps. Like,
100%.
Pretty low percentage. So, and I think Juju Smith-Schuster is receptions prop is 1.5.
That's interesting.
He's only got a catch 2. He just 2 catches, 60 yards in the AFC Championship. You only need 2 catches from him in the Super Bowl. Sneaky kind of key player for the Chiefs.
I kind of like that because the other thing you have to consider with the Chiefs is they like to play a little bit sometimes. You know what I mean? And like Juju's a guy who unfortunately seems like he might be on, getting near the back end of his career. Injuries have kind of robbed him of what he once was early in his career. And so if this is kind of his last, his swan song, so to speak, in Kansas City, like maybe feeding him a couple is probably, and like something in the game plan, like that doesn't seem too out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I want to bring up actually something that Ryan Leaf just talked about when he was here with us.
Yeah.
Michael Penix is number 1 quarterback heading into the draft last year.
That's
that's promising.
Yeah,
that makes me feel optimistic.
Yeah, it should. I think that anyone who watched Penix play last year in college at Washington, you had to see the talent. And, I understood the concerns about him. The guy's had multiple torn ACLs. That's not something that's going to make me feel good about a 23, 24-year-old going into the NFL. Contact's only going to get harder. Game's only going to get faster. So, I understand the reason he was docked, but if you're just watching football, Penix was a guy.
And Ryan Leaf said it, the amount of how accurate he is on his deep balls.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, And I think the only real issue I had with him in his first few starts, and I think you can just chalk it up to lack of chemistry, because it was times that there's like option routes and the receiver was seeing something different from him. That's going to happen if you're a rookie quarterback and you don't throw to the ones until week 15, week 16.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm optimistic about Michael Penix moving forward. I did talk to Kirk Cousins this morning. We had an issue. We lost the recording.
Yeah.
I did bring up the fact that I talked to him last year. I asked him how much of my pitch to him last year to sign with the Falcons affected it. He said, I do absolutely remember the interview, but you had, quote, little to no effect on him signing with the Falcons.
That's not zero.
It is not zero. I wanted him to say that I was the sole reason for it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because that's what you believed up to this point.
Right, and since then I have called myself the unofficial head of recruiting for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't
Of
know,
course.
Can I still call myself that if it's little to no effect?
I mean, it's unofficial, so I think you can call yourself whatever you want to.
My target this year to try to recruit to the Atlanta Falcons is a guy who was in the news yesterday, Myles Garrett. That is my recruiting target this year. I think the Falcons are a pass rusher away from being a real contender.
Yeah.
If I can find him this week and talk to him, I have to be able to pitch the Falcons.
Okay.
And hopefully, if it works, now it is a little bit of a different situation. He's not a free agent,
right.
So he can't choose where he's going to go.
Right, but I mean, the Falcons are picking what, 15th in the draft this year?
I believe 15th.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're sending the 15th pick, maybe a second rounder in 2026, Myles Garrett's better than you're going to find anyone you're going to find at the 15th pick.
How much have you looked at the draft? You are a college football guy. You're a draft guy. Have you started to look at the draft?
Oh, absolutely.
I know at least a little bit you have, but have you dove deep into it yet?
Not deep, but I after the Super Bowl, on fansided.com, I released a 3-round mock draft, so I'm at least 100 players deep.
Oh, so deep enough that you can give me your take on Falcons at 15.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we saw at the Senior Bowl this past week that if the Falcons were not to trade for Myles Garrett and they were to still have that need at pass rusher, 15 is actually a really good spot to be sitting in. You're not going to get Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, I don't know if he's going to go number 1 overall, but he's probably going top 5 with not really many questions about that. He is a freak show. But you get down past the 10 range, there's a lot of guys that really have me intrigued. You look at someone like Mike Green out of Marshall, led the FBS, in sacks with 17 this past season. Went viral because he absolutely blew the doors off of Oregon tackle Josh Connerly at the Senior Bowl, just put him flat on his ass. And so, when you look at this, you look at that guy, and there's the potential that he's a Khalil Mack type, because he played at Marshall. Now, they're different types of players, but I just meant in terms of value, because Khalil Mack played at Buffalo and he still ended up going top 5, but Khalil Mack probably should have gone number 1 overall with the talent that he had coming out of there. But that small school depresses you a little bit, and so Mike Green's someone that could be available there. You look at it depends on what type you want. Shamar Stewart, another guy that was at the Senior Bowl at Texas A&M, 285, moves like he's 250, and just an absolute freak show. Never quite put it all together at Texas A&M, which I know probably as a Falcons fan that worries you. Y'all have taken a lot of guys who have the traits but haven't really put it together.
Fact.
But
I want an NFL-ready guy.
Yeah, and so another guy, he's slightly built, but for an edge rusher, I should say. He's much bigger than you and I. But James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Very slight, but, oh, my God, the explosiveness of this dude. And he is the exact type of player. When I look at the Falcons and I think of what the Falcons have lacked for so long in terms of an edge pass rusher, he's the dude who you say, hey, pin your ears back and go. And he's that's what he did at Tennessee, and I think it's something that he is going to succeed at in the NFL.
Now, my number one concern about the Falcons, though, is they have drafted, and I knew this heading into last year, and they've gone on record. They say, no matter what, we will take the best player available.
Yes.
Heading into last year, everyone was like, pass rusher, it's a big need for them. I was like, no, they're going to take a wide receiver. Because at that point, they had just signed Kirk Cousins. I thought we had quarterback dealt with. They stuck to best player available to the point where they drafted a quarterback even though they just signed one to a massive deal.
And your reaction to that on this very platform was one of the highlights of my 2024.
And it was genuine because it truly, I thought I was being trolled. I thought it was fake news. And no, it was correct. Now, in hindsight, I'm happy that pick happened.
Absolutely.
But my concern is now the Falcons at 15. I mean, you just talked all pass rushers.
Yeah.
Draft experts are going to talk pass rushers because that is the number one glaring need the Falcons have.
Yes.
They do not have a pass rush. Where the Bears can never get a quarterback, the Falcons can never get a pass rusher. It is a curse that Atlanta has had.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned we get to 15 on the clock, and everyone's like, it's going to be a pass rusher. And they go with the 15th pick in the 2025 NFL entry draft. The Atlanta Falcons select a wide receiver. Give me a name of a wide receiver that could go at that spot. That would be a little bit of a reach.
Emeka Egbuka.
They draft Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there saying, perfect, we now will not have a pass rush once again.
Which I'm not even saying that's necessarily too much of a reach, but it is not necessarily what I would be thinking about there.
Do you think that happens, though? I mean, we've seen it in the past.
So I will say, kind of on the Penix point, when you look at last year's draft class, the quarterback position was probably the strength of that draft class, top to bottom. Like, you look at all the guys that came in and succeeded, from Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and like even the guys like Caleb Williams and Drake May that showed flashes. Like, that was the strength of that class. So him being best player available there, I think the strength of this class is at edge. Yeah. So like that might ease your worries a little bit, because there's a good chance that the best player available at 15 is an edge rusher.
Yeah. All right. I think we are going to bring on our next guest, and I think we got a few guys coming on here. DJ Dozier, I know, is coming on here.
That's right. We know that for sure.
Yes. And I think he has a couple of guys joining on here.
Awesome.
Hey,
how you doing,
how's
sir?
it going? Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Ian.
Cody.
We're Fanside is the website here that we're covering with. Fanside.com/Stack in the Box. Country. I'm Canadian, but I live in New York, so we're both U.S. guys.
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina, and I live in New Mexico now, so we're all over the place.
Yeah. Just grab that microphone there. Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm Ian. Andre, nice to meet you.
Cody.
Andre,
nice to meet you, man.
I heard Canadian, New York.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're national and international a little
international,
bit.
International, yeah. Did you tell right away from my accent that I was from somewhere else?
You're doing pretty good in hiding it. Because we played in Canada a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I got used to that.
There we go.
I've lived in New York for 3.5 years, so I've started to hide it a little bit.
But you're doing good.
Sometimes the Canadian accent comes out a little bit more.
Right. Well, plus I lived in Minnesota, so they got a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
The Minnesota accent is basically the Canadian accent,
right?
Especially the kind of Toronto area. Those those areas all kind of share similar accents.
Yeah.
Let's talk Sports Innovation X.
Okay.
Tell us about your partnership with them.
So. It's a company that was started by Mike. Mike came to me years ago and had this idea about duplicating his business that he was working on the government side in the sports community. So basically what we do is help small companies, small tech companies that are focused on a technology for sports or athletes, sports entities, and help them move into the sports community. A lot of these small companies don't have the personnel or don't have the strategy or understanding of how to move into the space. So we help bridge relationships as well as look for opportunities for them to do that.
And Andre, you're joining us. Founded Andre Julius Custom Suits and Tuxedos. You are looking sharp today, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so Andre Julius, I launched it about 3 years ago. It's kind of just an idea, literally. I was sitting on the couch one day, talked to my wife, and I mentioned personal styling and image consulting for men in Virginia. My wife thought I was crazy. There's no clients for that in Virginia, just to let you know.
I'm originally from Virginia, so I understand.
What part?
Lynchburg.
Okay, so I'm from Williamsburg.
Okay, absolutely, yeah. I've been to Williamsburg.
Say it again?
I've been to Williamsburg, so yeah.
I've been to Lynchburg.
Yeah, there we go.
So I have a showroom in Williamsburg, and I have a showroom in Richmond, Virginia as well. But let's go back to that story. I was telling my wife about personal style and image consulting. Long story short, I dove into custom suiting head first. I was a police officer at that time when I launched Andre Julius, and then just recently I kind of officially retired about 6 months ago. Now I do this full time. We make custom garments from scratch, suits, tuxedos, shirts, leather garments, et cetera, et cetera. I'm kind of that one-stop shop. I design, I style clients, and I produce them the garments as well.
Yeah, and you work some high-profile clients. One that sticks out on this list to me, Nate Burleson, because he's Canadian.
Is he?
Nate Burleson's Canadian. Is he not? Am I wrong?
I'm going to call him. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Google that.
Listen,
we're Googling on the fly now.
He's Canadian. Yeah. He's born in Calgary, Alberta. Shout out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there you go.
He hides the accent really well. Nate does.
Good stuff. So, I mean, let's talk the Super Bowl if that's all right with you guys. Thoughts on the Super Bowl as a whole? My opinion, and maybe you disagree with this a little bit. I'm a little tired of the Chiefs winning over and over again. Can't we just let someone else win for once?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean, but that's how dynasties are built, right? You get tired of them. I mean, not everybody was a Tom Brady fan,
right?
But he is the GOAT. So Mahomes is on that path, and yeah, it would be nice to have seen Buffalo. And I've got some friends that work in the organization, so it would have been nice to see them there. But no matter what, you've got to earn your right to be there. Mm-hmm. And people ask, well, who do you want to win? I mean, I'm more practical, so it doesn't matter who I want to win. Right. Somebody's going to win.
Right.
I'd like to see, another team in there, but the fact is they prove themselves to figure out how to win, to get themselves back into that position now to win again.
Now, former running back yourself, Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl, in my opinion, a very interesting storyline because the running back position has been kind of in a tough spot the past few years because they're not getting paid what they deserve to get paid. Saquon this year, and I think it's the first time in the last time that a running back dragged a team to the Super Bowl and he's been their MVP week in and week out. Like, what does that say as a running back for the running back position as a whole to prove that they can still be the focal point of the offense and they deserve to get paid as such?
Well, let's face it. The game has gone through a couple of transitions and evolutions. Mm-hmm. Passing has always been important in the NFL.
Yeah.
Quarterback has always been important. I mean, the quarterback position is important. But now that you have a shotgun basically every play.
Yeah.
And now you have three receivers on the field and no fullback, unless it's a tight end that they have in that position, sort of a ad hoc fullback. It's changed the game. Now the running back actually has an edge if you have the right strategy in terms of running the football. Mm-hmm. It's just that teams in the league have gotten away from running and more passing. So now with a spread out defense and you focus on running, guess what's going to happen?
Right.
You get more opportunity for your backs. So it's not that the running back was ever less important. It's just he was less dependent upon.
Right.
And so now that we go back to the original, you got to have both.
Right.
And if you focus here first, then it opens up the passing game. They're just doing it from a different position.
Is Saquon your MVP for this year? Because he's in the discussion. It's looking like it's going to be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson because the MVP award is basically just turned into the top quarterback award.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone deserves it this year, Saquon's got to be in the mix.
Well, he has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, what he has done on the field, and and those of us that are Penn State alum are incredibly proud that he represents Penn State. Because he's the best and one of the best that's ever been, but not just on the field, off the field.
Yeah.
His work ethic is being proved on the field. Mm-hmm. His work ethic in the weight room and the kind of person he is translates or has translated to what we're seeing on the field at this point.
So, you mentioned the Penn State Brotherhood, obviously a pretty good year for Penn State this past year. Right. And they're running it back with Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen all coming back. Do you think that, you mentioned the changes in the NFL game in terms of, now there's more opportunities for the running back. Do you think that in terms of what Penn State needs to do, they've always been a run-centric team, even back in your day and now up to this time. Do you think that maybe transitioning a little more towards letting Drew Aller kind of flex his arm, do you think that's where Penn State is headed to kind of get to that next level in this modern era of college football?
I don't see them changing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean that's fair.
Yeah, I think they're gonna keep the. I mean, not to say the skills don't need to get better.
Yeah.
But the same strategy is going to, I believe, take place because you're not going to move away from that talent.
Right.
Right. I mean, having two running backs with the capability of getting 1,000 yards.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, when does that happen? Right. I mean, it doesn't happen. So, you've got to take advantage of that, but use it as basically use it to increase your opportunity to pass them. And I mean, it's the same thing we just talked about with the pros, right? In Kansas City. I mean, you use the running game, and then if you got two great backs, and you got to replace a great tight end.
Oh yeah.
But you use that part of your system to increase the opportunity to pass.
Now, Andre, I got a question for you. Now, excuse my ignorance in terms of American geography, because you're from Virginia, but you're a Cowboys fan.
Yes.
Who do people from Virginia cheer for?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Interesting.
That's not true at all. And you know it's not.
That's a joke. So most people that lives in Virginia it's a Commanders fan. Generally speaking. Yeah. So like my videographer Al, he's a Commanders fan because live in Virginia.
Yeah.
I was kind of born into Steeler Nation per my older brother and my uncle. So yeah.
And that's why I'm not a Commanders fan. My cousin, who I always looked up to, was a Cowboys fan growing up. And
you're a Cowboys fan?
I'm a big Cowboys fan. Yeah.
It makes sense. Okay.
Well, I'm from Virginia, and I became a Cowboys fan.
There you go.
Although my dad is a Commanders fan.
Except my dad's a Commanders fan as well. So there we go.
Right.
It does seem like those are the Cowboys and the Steelers are the two teams that kind of have fans everywhere.
Yeah.
And it seems like every single road game is in some sense a home game for the two of them.
Correct.
Andre, Super
Yes,
Bowl
sir.
prediction. I want a Super Bowl prediction from both of you. Let's start with you.
Oh man, so I was a little running back in the day in high school and a little bit of college. I'm big on running game and good defense. I feel like running game eats the clock up, so you're leaning towards Eagles in that scenario.
So, love Andy Reid, love Mahomes, love the team. I just like to see the Eagles get a win, get at least one.
I agree. I could not agree more.
Especially with Saquon coming over from New York.
Sure.
And, in his first year, this will be a phenomenal sort of cap of the season.
Now, you played for both the Vikings and the Lions, two teams who great regular seasons this year, heartbreaking finish. Which of the two is more heartbreaking, do you think? To have an unbelievable team all season, Super Bowl favorites, and then it's one and done, or the Vikings where it's like, this was the season that were like everything just kind of worked for them, and it seemed like they could have gone on a Cinderella run, and then once again, one and done in the playoffs.
Yeah, those are so different, but I mean, both are really tough. But I would say the Detroit Lions, I mean, to have the season they did and the expectation that comes with it.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a tough game, especially in the playoffs. It's a different season, actually. And unless you've been there as a team, you're disadvantaged. You've got to have that experience. And of course, you're playing against teams that have that experience. The odds are against you. And it didn't matter if they went undefeated in the regular season. Once the playoffs start, it's a whole nother season, which we saw.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming out. Let the people know where they can find out more for both of you.
So for us, go to sportsinnovation.com. It's sportsinnovationx.com.
Perfect.
Yeah. For us, it's AndreJulius.com. On Instagram, at AndreJuliusOfficial.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for
having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Take
man.
care.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, there you have it. This pretty much brings us to the end of the first full day of Radio Row.
I know,
Thoughts?
man. Having a blast. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow and the next day, man.
Yeah, it's a very busy week, very fun week. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you're here.
I'm excited you're here. I mean, this is the first time we've actually gotten to meet face to face,
Yes.
like in New Orleans this week. So, nice to finally be in person, man.
We co-hosted Green on the Greens 2 different seasons.
Yep.
Never met in person. We have now met in person. And speaking of which, we got to now go to PXG.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I was about to say, we might be one of the few people in the world who have paid for a round of golf for one another but have never actually met in person.
Correct. So one swing in the club. It all comes down to this, and it will completely determine who's the better golfer.
There we go. Love to see it.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching and following along today. We have even more interviews. This is kind of a little bit of a warm-up day here on Radio Row for Stack in the Box, Fan-Sided, for Arrowhead Addict. The rest of the week, especially the next 2 days, jam-packed from start to finish. Tomorrow, things will start back up live at 9 a.m. Central, so that is 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'm glad you're doing that math.
The time zones have already messed us up once today. I'm going to try not to get too messed up with the time zones moving forward. I'll be on here with Malcolm from the Special Olympics. Our first interview of the day tomorrow is going to be Vince Wilfork. one of my enemies, as he was a
but
Patriot.
he might grill for you. You know.
True. So we'll talk to him, and we got loaded. We're loaded with interviews tomorrow and the next day and early Friday. Tune in, subscribe, Stack in the Box, Arrowhead Addict, wherever you're watching this live stream. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We'll see you.